welcome everybody. I am so excited to talk Terrifier, all things Terrifier today. I am Kelsey, of course, host of Nightmares and Nostalgia. It's so weird to do a live stream on this new channel, but I am joined by my good friend Kat, who has been on many a live stream with me. Hello, Kat.
Hello, Kelsey. Hello, everyone who is joining us.
Yes, I appreciate anyone who's tuning in live or anyone who will tune in after the fact. I will just warn you now, grab a snack, a beverage. I think this is going to be a long one just based off of Kat and I in the past. We can really go off when it comes to slashers in general, but we have had extensive conversations about Art the Clown, about Terrifier, all the way back years ago when we first saw the first movie we both saw out of the franchise was Terrifier. Then we watched All Hallows Eve and we had a chat about that. Then we saw Terrifier 2 in the theater together and we talked about it then. And then we saw recently Terrifier 3 in the theater together and we talked about it after that too. So I've got links to chats where Kat and I have talked little by little about this franchise in a little piecemeal type of way. But this is the first chat where we are talking about it all at once and with spoilers. So just giving you guys a heads up, spoilers will be discussed. So prepare yourself. If you haven't watched the movies, you might want to tune out at certain points whenever we discuss, a certain movie or something. But yeah, I'm excited to really get into the nitty-gritty of things. Kat is famous, at least on my stream, she's famous for looking up all kinds of great details and fun facts and little tidbits. And what I'm excited about is to kind of break down what we think about things, talk about theories for the ending of the franchise, because I gotta say, I'm so glad we both rewatched the entire franchise to prepare for this chat. And I am so happy we did because I feel like I have such a good understanding. I've never been more excited for the franchise to continue. After rewatching all of them in a row, it gives you a different appreciation versus the way I first saw them all was very separate, like years in between each one. I didn't rewatch them in a row ever until this weekend, and it's been great.
I couldn't agree more. I'm like even more excited about the chat just because I've spent the week with Art the Clown.
I know. I mean, we both literally did.
Oh, yes.
I'm so glad you like the franchise. Can't wait to hear what you guys think. Guys, to start off with you and your opinions in the chat, I would love to know, do you like the franchise? If you do, why? If you don't, why? Tell us. We want to know all opinions. What turns you off? What appeals to you about it if you do like it? So let us know. Do you have a specific ranking of the franchise? Whether that be you've only seen 3 of them, 1, 2, and 3, or if you've seen all 4, including All Hallows Eve, or if you've even seen more than that, because there are little things here and there that are like little extra things. Like, didn't he have that standalone film that he put into All Hallows Eve? I can't remember.
All Hallows Eve has 2 of his short films.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
The first and the third.
Yes. So we will talk all about that, each one, but I want to know you guys' rankings. So don't be shy in the chat. Let us know your thoughts, your opinions. Hi, Amy. Hi, Melissa. Halko. Art scares me, Halko says. We know Andrew doesn't like Art the Clown. Tell us your opinions, Andrew. Why do you hate it? I kind of want to know. I love Kat's facts too. That's why I'm so honored and glad she's with me today. Coffee and banana bread. I'm ready.
Yum.
I wish you would have rewatched 2, because especially when you rewatch 2 and 3 together, it makes such a huge difference. Like, there were so many things when I saw 3 in the theater, I had forgotten stuff from 2. So I was sitting here being like, why are they referencing this? What was this place again? What was the significance of the sword? But like this weekend, it all came together. So Kat, you can start us off if you want with some fun facts. Do you want to start with All Hallows or Terrifier?
Let's start with All Hallows Eve, because I think that is where Art the Clown was born.
Yes.
Basically. And this was a film that was created in 2013. And of course, as I mentioned, there are 3 short films in it because it's an anthology. So you have stories within a bigger story. And that's one of the things that appealed to me. I love anthologies. I've seen quite a few over the years that I think are really good. And I think this one was well done. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, someone wanted to give Damien Leone an opportunity to make like a feature. And so he went ahead and used two of his shorter films, one at the beginning and the third one. And then they were thinking of having somebody else do the middle story, but then he was like, let me go ahead and direct it. So the first one is called The Ninth Circle, and that one was actually, let me look at my notes real quick over here, was actually released in 2008.
So I love how there's also a tie-in to the Ninth Circle all the way fast forward to Terrifier 3 right at the end.
And that's why I wish Barry would have been able to see. My husband watched Terrifier, the first one, the second, and the third with me. But he didn't get to see All Hallows Eve because I had watched that like Monday night. So I need him to go back and watch that one just so he can like tell me what he thinks. I mean, it might not change anything. But then he might understand when I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that, you know, kind of thing. But the first film is The Ninth Circle, short film, 2008. The second film is Something in the Dark. Art the Clown does not make an appearance in that film physically. There's a picture of him. That one was actually released in 2013 when All Hallows Eve was released. And then Terrifier, the short film Terrifier, was released in 2011. So Art the Clown is introduced to us by, you know, Michael Gianelli. He plays the original Art the Clown. What's funny about it is you could tell the budget for The Ninth Circle was or just All Hallows Eve in general was lower because Michael Gianelli had like lots of credits. He was Art the Clown. He was one of the demons. He was a grip.
So he was doing everything.
Yeah, as was Damon Leone. He was props guy. He was like sound effects. He was writer, director. I mean, that's what happens when you are starting out as a filmmaker, right?
And I will say, I'm going to let you continue with your fun facts, but All Hallows Eve for me holds a special place because if you remember, we watched things in a weird order. So although we're sitting here talking about All Hallows Eve first, we had already watched the first Terrifier, and I wasn't really very in love with that one. I was fascinated by some aspects of it, like what makes this a slasher. But when we watched All Hallows Eve, the reason I have such a soft spot for it is because it's the only reason I think we've continued on with our Art the Clown journey, because I loved how it tied everything together. I just liked it more than Terrifier. I just thought it was less cruel, more or maybe I should say more universally cruel to everyone versus feeling like it was kind of like just mean to women. I feel like All Hallows Eve, nobody's safe. I mean, there's still violence to women, but there's also violence to kids. Dudes are getting messed up too. But so I feel like also it had a way more Halloween-y vibe, which I really liked. So
yes, I mean, the only thing of the three short films, The Ninth Circle is my least favorite, and Art the Clown does not really have a role in it like he does when he becomes the terrifying clown that goes out and does his bidding. Art doesn't actually kill anyone in The Ninth Circle. He doesn't kill anyone in the second short film because, like I said, he's a portrait of himself. Okay. So the third one is where we get Art the Clown, the serial killer.
Right.
So, and then there are so many things in that little short film that were so off-putting to me.
Yeah.
You know, that I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is creepy, you know, and now I can see like where he got his start. Like, so seeing Terrifier first, you could kind of see a little bit about his origin, I guess. But anyway, I do think that Mike Gianelli needs to have some props for him for at least being the one who breathed life into Art the Clown, you know, because I don't think he gets acknowledged quite as much as David Howard Thornton does.
Yeah.
You know, now that it's gotten big. But I loved the characters of that Katie McGuire played the babysitter, Sarah.
Yeah, I liked her a lot. In fact, I liked the babysitter story the best because it tied everything together and it just made it really work for me. I liked that little I guess you could call it a throughway. I really liked that little thread that tied everything.
And I like that we see her again.
Me too.
And then Kayla Leanne plays Casey, who was like really like the main character in The Ninth Circle. Catherine A. Callahan plays Caroline in Something in the Dark, and Marie Macer plays the woman, the main character in the Terrifier short. So, like I said, I wasn't a fan of The Ninth Circle, but I enjoyed the main storyline and I enjoyed the other two stories. I was also fascinated. I told Kelsey this before we came on. I was also fascinated with the kill counts and everything, just to see if there was a progression in it. And if you don't count Ninth Circle and the other one, the alien one, there was only 6 kills in that short. Well, I say only, but for a short film, there were 6 kills.
But I do like how, and this is taking into account every Terrifier, kids aren't safe. Because we've had discussions how in a lot of movies shy away from showing kids getting hurt. Terrifier franchise pretty much goes there. They're like, kids aren't even safe. Nobody's safe.
Yes, that is true. I was watching a YouTube video that David Leone was being interviewed. And that was one of the reasons, one of the questions they asked him was about Terrifier 3 being set at Christmas. And he said nothing speaks more children than Christmas time. So he knew, even though Halloween does too, it's just that Christmas just seems more like a kid's holiday, I guess.
Well, also, it's such a nice stark contrast to Art and his like evil soul, you know, the innocence and the goodness of what Christmas is supposed to represent, mixed with what Art really truly represents, and then Art using that like good wholesome imagery but still being as vile and as evil as ever. Whereas Halloween, I think, you know, it is a great setting for him, but it's more like he fits into that setting because, you know, Halloween is the night of mischief and mayhem and evil spirits abound. Whereas Christmas, it's such. Now, at first I was torn about them setting the third one at Christmas, but I think looking back, it actually added a nice new element to it.
I do too, and it added a little more of his, you know, humor and his levity he brings, especially that bar scene, which is probably one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite scenes in it. I know we're getting ahead, but the one thing I want to say is when you look at Terrifier, the short film, as well as Terrifier 1 and 2, Halloween is more for the adults, whereas in All Hallows Eve, the children are affected by Art, and because of the main story, the main storyline. So that kind of, it's like, we know it's kind of taboo to like kill kids. A lot taboo kind of thing. But the one thing I will have to say, and I don't know if it's a rule in like filmmaking or whatever, but and it's something you and I have talked about. I think we talked about it when we watched Silver Bullet. You don't ever really see a child getting murdered. You see the after effects of it. And sometimes that's just, you can hear what's going on, but then your mind and your imagination of what has happened. So, but it's a horrific thing, because, you know, but it also shows that Art could care less.
Yeah, he could
care less. At the end of the day, he could care less. He's going to do what he wants to do.
I will say they don't physically show the kids getting killed, but they do show the aftermath at least.
Yes.
Because for some reason, I thought we saw the little girl at the beginning of Terrifier 3 get killed, but we don't. We just assume that she
because of and I thought that was wonderful. It was one of the things I forgot. I guess I was so terrified watching it.
Yeah.
You see the little girl who is played. She is so cute. She's the most precious little thing. It's like, that tells you right there that Art is heartless, because she's so cute. He could not even let her go. But she's so cute. You see her, and then the next thing you know, you see the bloody axe. And you're like, you know what's going to happen. It's like terrible. But I will tell you that the other thing that I love is that he gave a nod to George Romero in the film, because Night of the Living Dead is playing with the babysitter. She's watching it while the kids are in bed. And I love that. You know me. I love my zombies. So
and that happens again, as you said, in Terrifier.
Terrifier 2.
Oh, Terrifier 2. Yes, the mom.
The
Yes,
mom is
and
watching
Terrifier
it.
2.
And if it is in the other ones, I didn't catch it or I didn't make a note of it.
In Terrifier, at the end of Terrifier 2 and at the beginning of Terrifier 3 in the psych ward, they're watching some kind of black and white movie, but I don't think it's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know
not
what
sure.
it is.
I don't know. I
I think it was
couldn't really
Frankenstein, but I'm not sure.
tell. But I do. I know. They were watching the film that I did the play adaptation for.
Oh, yes, yes.
And they show Mrs. Slides, who that was my character. Of course, I wasn't as ghastly as Mrs. Slides, but she was the one that, the one woman with the whacked out hair and no eyes, and she floats away.
So Amy says she was not really a fan of the franchise after watching Terrifier 1 and All Hallows Eve, but now she's a big fan after watching 2 and 3. I love those, thought they were super fun. I don't like the franchise, but I like Art the Clown. Melissa says, I like it, but don't love it. I'd say a 3 out of 5. Amy says, I also liked All Hallows Eve more than Terrifier 1. I don't think I would have continued if it weren't for All Hallows Eve making me more intrigued. And then she fast forwards like we were kind of doing. I thought that the Christmas stuff in Terrifier 3 actually really worked with it being a religious holiday to a lot of people. Agree. It was such a stark contrast to Art and everything he represents. And
well, the
Christmas
thing about
represents.
it is, I think it tied in because of what we know about Art and what we know about Sienna.
Yeah, and what Sienna is
religious
supposed to
element,
mean.
yes, has been tied in. And there are parts in there that I think were just so good, with that religious element in it.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, and this is the last little tidbit, I watch credits. Like, I like to look at the credits just for my own personal satisfaction. I mean, all those people work on a film, and most people just get up and leave and don't ever look at all the people that put that film together. But I just had to chuckle because there was a bug wrangler.
I love that. I don't think I would not become a bug wrangler. That would not be the job for me.
It was Andrew Mahler, Mahler. He was the bug wrangler in All Hallows Eve. It just popped out to me. I didn't bother to look at all of them, but I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, so I like All Hallows Eve, and I was going back and forth because, with my rankings and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? My gut tells me it is what I'm giving it. I'm not going to change it just to make this ranking fit better or whatever,
right. What did you originally give it? And you're keeping it, whatever you originally gave it for a rating.
4 stars.
4 stars. I'm thinking 3.5 if I had to guess.
Well,
I really, really like it, but after having rewatched everything else, I think it stays for me at 3.5 right now.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that I don't like is the ninth circle. I didn't really care for that. I mean, it's not really art. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
However, after watching everything, I do think there's a reason we had to see it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's there. And I think the ending is, I don't know, it all plays a part.
I want to hear your theories, Kat, but this is really great information from our friend Erie here. Bug wranglers make $6,000 a day depending on the bug quantity. That's wild.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, especially if it's roaches. I'd be fired.
Yeah, I would be killing my own bugs.
I could be your bug wrangler, but you can't be having no roaches in there.
Yeah, like you can have any kind of bugs you want, but I don't work with roaches.
No, I do not. Never.
All right, so now you want to keep going in order and then go to Terrifier next?
Sure.
All right, let's talk Terrifier then. Terrifier to me, easily, I just want to say this, is my least favorite movie of the entire franchise. If I had just seen Terrifier and not ventured to All Hallows Eve, as I said, just to reiterate, I wouldn't have continued on. I might not have been brave enough to go see Terrifier 2 with you in the theater. I don't know. But Terrifier just did not hit the mark. What the best part about it to me is the design of Art. He is so well designed and so unique of a villain that he does stick with you in terms of his look and his unrelenting evilness, really. His unrelenting I don't even know how else to say it besides what I just said. Just, he's a terrible he just seems more evil than some other slashers, in my opinion.
Yes, and also I think the difference is, I think and I could be, I mean, Damien Leone probably had his vision of what he wanted to do with art. I haven't watched every interview with him, but the ones that I have watched, he seems like he had a vision of where he wanted this to go. And I think because in Terrifier, he was just a serial killer. It's just a really bad guy, serial killer. And if you happen to cross paths with him, then that's it, you
Yeah.
know? And he was just gross. You know, I just think of that scene of him in a pizza parlor was just nasty to me. Like,
To me, upon rewatch, the thing that stuck out to me was not the sawing in half, which is the scene a lot of people talk about.
yeah.
The woman hanging upside down, getting sawed in half. Again, we are talking spoilers, so just another reminder. These are big spoilers for Terrifier. What sickened me was him chopping off that woman's chest. I hated that. I hated it. I felt like, and that's what really left me torn about the franchise was how it felt. Now, looking back on it and rewatching it, there is brutality towards men in the movie. But for some reason, when you and I first watched it, all I could see was the unrelenting evilness towards women.
Yeah. Well, also, too, I think what it is, the difference is how the men, and that was another thing. I think I focused so much on the women, how they were killed, that I kind of forgot that the men were not treated so nicely either. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike the exterminator, I guess all I remembered really about him was he got nailed in the head, basically, and you think he's dead, but of course he's not, and he's going to try to make a last-ditch effort to help
But
and
that
get them
other
out of there.
guy,
But then he ends up having a really cruel death. I mean, because Art stomps on his face. Like, literally, that's who they bring in
yeah.
the morgue along with Art. And they even say, all you're going to be able to do is maybe identify him by his dental record. So it's that kind of thing. However, I think the difference between the male kills and the female kills had to do with the femininity of the women.
Yes.
I think it was like taking away something from them in a, and I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it's almost like, because everything that he does, it's like the way he regards women. And it was the same way in the short film Terrifier, when the girl is amputated and she's on the table
And
and
he
she's
wrote
got
all
all
those,
those things cut
yeah.
on her. Okay. Well, the thing about it is, and I'm wondering how that factors into his origin story. But anyway, which I hope they don't make him some pitiful little person or whatever. Wow, wow,
No.
wow. I hope he's, you know, truly has a good origin story. But I think what it is there's a hatred for women that's a little bit deeper than his hatred for men. And it's because of how he killed, like the woman getting sawed in half. Why couldn't she be clothed? Why did he even have to remove her underwear to do what he did that?
I know, and you don't see it, but you do see him going like this and going like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah. So
and then,
why did he have to do that? It's
but
like
not only that,
degradation to, like, even more degradation to her.
degradation to motherhood as well when he's taunting the woman with her baby doll, who she believes
Yes.
is her child, and then cutting off her breast like
And dressing
the,
up as it and
and
making
then going
fun
around like
of
this.
being a woman. Yes.
Yes, yes,
You know,
and
which
then
that almost reminded me of Buffalo Bill and the Silence of the Lambs.
yes, yes, yes. So I think there is something deeper there. I still think he kills and is brutal to everyone, but I do think there's a hint more brutality. And it appears not only in Terrifier, I do think it's there in Terrifier 2,
Oh,
where
yes.
he is a little more brutal to the women. However, in Terrifier 3, if we're comparing all three of them, I do think it finally felt a little more balanced, but it still leans towards women to me that they get the worst of it. But I felt like there was a tiny bit more balance to where almost everyone got the brutality at almost the same level in Terrifier 3. I
Well,
don't know how you feel, but
even Vicky, because I'm going to reveal something I learned about Vicky, but even Vicky, who's someone who's doing his bidding, is even not given the respect. You know what I'm saying? because she's like a woman,
He liked the little girl better than Vicky. He treated that little girl better
but
than he always
there's a
looked annoyed
reason.
at Vicky.
There's a reason for that I think. I mean, that's just my theories.
We definitely want to hear your theories as we go, for sure.
I loved the things that I loved about Terrifier is I love that Katie Maguire comes back into Terrifier as the journalist. I love that I love how they started off in the present time, but then you go back in time to find out how Vicky got to where she was, why this happened to her or
and
whatever.
Guys, Vicky's the one without with the messed up face.
Yeah, Victoria Hayes. 3. Yeah. And to me, like seeing Art, he's just so hideous and he's off-putting and it's so hard to watch him and just like his comic, all his little comic relief that he tries to bring some levity to the situation. Now, that is funny. Barry thought that was funny. My husband thought it was like, what's up with this guy? Like he thinks it's hilarious, whatever. But
what do you think it is about Art and his look? Is it the expressions? Is it that we see more of his face? So you said that Damien credited Wes Craven. So let's talk about another character. The only other slasher I can think of is Freddy Krueger, who you can see kind of humor in his expression. He does kind of have a dark humor to him, and you can see his face and his facial expressions. Then when you think of characters like Michael Myers or Jason, you can't see their face.
Or Leatherface.
Yes,
Leatherface.
You can't see their face, and they're mostly expressionless, and they're mostly just kind of silent and just kind of brooding and like walking around like with no personality almost. So I think Art, it was almost like he was designed to be something different. The only comparable thing I really can compare him to is Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
So, but even apart from him, he looks so different. And the fact that he doesn't speak in a way, he's almost completely opposite of Freddy Krueger. Because Freddy Krueger's humor is mostly in his little, verbal jabs and stuff.
Yeah, I think Art, I don't like clowns to begin with, but it's a combination clown mime.
Yeah.
That is so, and it's his silence. And then there's sometimes where he's just staring you down and then he breaks out in that grin and then he does something, like he's going to give Tara the ring, and he's going to, and it seems like if anybody does anything that doesn't receive it firsthand, then they're going to really suffer. You know what I'm saying? And that seems like what ends up happening. I also found that there was 9 kills in this movie, believe it or not. It seemed like there was a lot, but I think what ended up happening was a lot of people were knocked out and then they were killed.
Yeah.
But I looked at the ways that they were killed.
I was going to say, do you know how many were killed by gunshot? That's what I'm kind of interested in.
Well, in the short film, there was one person in gunshot, and that was the guy who had picked the girl up. Art drives the car next to him and shoots him through the window. I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah.
Okay, so in Terrifier, Tara is shot, and then he shoots himself.
Yes.
That's how he ends up in the morgue, which he is technically dead.
Yeah, he is dead. He's definitely dead.
But there's a lot of decapitation. I find that Art likes to decapitate, and he likes to remove skin off of people. Those are the
and
two.
Faces or like beards,
hair, like scalping them and like peeling their skin off and like decapitating. Those are like his
favorites.
Yeah, his favorites.
It's just, guys, if you want to hear, we're not going to probably talk about it as much today, but one of the biggest things that caught Kat and I off guard about Terrifier, and probably one of the reasons that kept us intrigued about the franchise, was Art used a gun, but everyone was calling Terrifier a slasher. And we were like, how is he a slasher that uses a gun? And then we broke this down. So if you want to hear really in-depth discussion about the gun specifically, Kat and I've got our previous videos linked. We really talk about the gun a lot and how we're like, does it make it a slasher? Well, it's so disturbing and like he's so anti-woman, but it's so disturbing that it almost makes you kind of think, and that makes it effective and blah, blah, blah. Right. And so we had the greatest discussions about, especially Terrifier after we first watched it. We really did. So I would I would advise people to check those out if they haven't seen our other chats.
Yeah, and I'll just make a comment about that, about the gun. Some people, I watched an interview, and I'm going to send that link to Kelsey so she can put it in the description box of this chat. But he did make a comment about that, about tropes, and one of them was about the kids. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, I got called out because Art used a gun.
Yes.
However, that's okay. You can bend the rules, kind of thing." The other thing is Leone got started in filmmaking through his passion for practical effects and makeup, and I think that really does come through in a lot of his kills.
It really does. They're way more visual. I feel like Terrifier is a very visual franchise, all the way from Art's design itself to the kills that he enacts. So I think every little aspect, and even the settings of the films. If you take away Terrifier, I feel like Terrifier did not utilize the setting of Halloween to the fullest. But when you come to 2 and 3, it does utilize the settings of the time of year very well, and it becomes part of the visual style of the entire thing. It's not just about Art and his visuals or the kills visuals. It's about the setting and the time of year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just kind of really evolved since Terrifier, and I'm glad it did, because I think if it stayed like Terrifier, like if they had just meaningless kills for 2 and 3, I don't think it would have been as impactful or lasting. I think you do have to have a final girl, and that's one of the biggest things that was lacking in Terrifier 1.
Well,
is that there's not likable characters. There is a final girl technically, but she's not good.
No, she's not good, and we find that out, obviously, but she is not a sustainable final girl. She's not like what we know of as a final girl, in regular slasher films. And I think that was also probably something that he had to take a look at if he was going to continue this franchise. But another thing I want to say is, going back to practical effects, 2 of his heroes is Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero, who are well known in special effects and makeup in the community.
And Savini guest starred in Terrifier 3, which I think is great, and it's kind of like, it must have been really validating for him to get Savini to be a part of Terrifier 3. Like, wow, this is like an idol of mine, and he's actually in my movie now.
Right, and you bringing up Wes Craven with Freddy Krueger, when I was looking at credits, he has an in memory of Wes Craven, George Romero, as well as Tobe Hooper. So you kind of think you can see some of those elements in his own film.
For sure, especially with the dark humor when it comes to, giving that remembrance to Wes Craven. I just feel like definitely Freddy vibes Art gives off, but like in his complete own way. Like, he's not a clone or a bad replica of Freddy. He's comparable to Freddy, but also completely his own.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it would have been sustainable with just Art's look and personality alone. I really think they needed something more, and I'm glad 2 delivered it. However, not everyone loved 2. I know we're still in 1, but I'm just saying, not everyone loved 2 and still thought there was a lot of problems with the franchise. Like, I know our friend Cameron from Library Macabre, his channel is linked below. He thought 2 was almost too mean. Too kind of torture porn-esque, even more so than Terrifier 1 at times, because of specific kills and specific scenes.
Right.
But
I mean, I would consider this extreme horror.
Yes.
Teetering on torture porn, depending on what the scene is.
Right.
I think the purpose of Terrifier was to showcase Art the Clown just by himself, instead of being part of something. And also, too, he's coming out as a serial killer, but then I think Damien Leone needed more of a story, and so that's when the supernatural aspect comes in towards the end.
And I will say, one of Cameron's criticisms about 2 is he feels like things are just placed there to try to backtrack and explain things, or conveniently give Art a bigger story. I do think, maybe when Damien made Terrifier 1, he didn't have this whole big scheme to make more, but I think he did a good job at weaving in what could be and making something more meaningful out of whatever had already taken place. So although it might not have been intentioned or it might have been shoehorned in, I will say my take on it is that the direction you went in works more so than how it originated. So even if it's shoehorned in, I still think it overall it works.
I mean, and I found it interesting too that his first two, obviously All Hallows Eve as well as Terrifier, neither one of them have the SAG-AFTRA logo at the end of it, you know. And for Terrifier, he actually had Indiegogo patrons that helped, you know, create a budget for this. So there are things I think that work in it. And I think it, like, you know, he mentioned it's a showcase for Art the Clown. You know, we end up meeting Samantha Scafidi, who ends up portraying Victoria Vicky Hayes, and she ends up going throughout the whole rest of the franchise.
Is it the same actress?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. So every time in other films, it's her too. It's the same actress.
Yes. So she is, but her role changes.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to reveal. But, you know, it's just that she's considered a final girl, but we know that she really is not one because she snaps in that interview, after that interview.
Right. Which is so sad, because, like, after everything she's been through, and then she snaps and she becomes one of the bad guys.
Well, I think Monica Brown triggered something in her.
Yeah. So Monica Brown, guys, is the character played by the actress who also played the babysitter in All Hallows Eve, but the interviewer who Vicky loses it on and, like, basically rips her face off.
Yes.
Like, see how you like it. You know, why? Don't make fun of me. See how you like this. So
what did you rate Terrifier?
I am going back and forth between 2.5 and 3. 3 because it's like, I really do love Art as a character. And if not for the success of the first Terrifier, would we even have gotten a 2 or 3? I don't know. I feel like it's more of a 2.5 to me, because what I keep coming back to is the frustration about there's so little in the realm of likable characters, that even the victims are not super lovable or likable. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't want them killed. I didn't think they deserved to be killed, but they weren't the kind of people you root for. Whereas when Sienna is introduced, to me, when Sienna was introduced in 2, it like was a huge turning point for me. She is so likable. Like, that was everything that the franchise needed, was something like her. Someone to root for, someone to care for. Now, just being a basic human, we do care about the girls in Terrifier. We don't want them to get killed, but there's just still kind of a lack of depth there. We don't really get to know them, and no one comes out on top in the traditional sense. So to me, there's something lacking there. So I think I'm going to settle on a 2.5 because of the lack of love I have for any of the characters. But it's a high 2.5 because Art is great. Art is great, you know, and it did yield a lot of great conversations between you and I. So I have a little bit of nostalgia for it because of that. So a high 2.5 is how I'm going to settle with my rating.
Well, I originally gave it a 3, but I bumped it to a 3.5. And not that, I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying. But I do like the fact that it kind of gives us, you know, Art in a bigger arena.
And it does give us that supernatural twist at the end.
That's what bumped it up to the half for me, because now I understand how he became supernatural, and I understand how it's playing out in 2 and 3.
So just to confirm, your opinion and my opinion are the same, is that Art was a man in Terrifier 1.
He's just a regular man.
Serial killer. And then at the end of Terrifier 1, he becomes something more, a true slasher. So that's when he becomes a slasher, is right at the end.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
I think I feel about that the same way. And I think there's a lot of evidence to support that. So yeah, for sure. So do you want to say any final thoughts about Terrifier 1 before we move to 2?
No, that's all I have to say.
All right, so let's talk quickly about overall thoughts of 2. I remember 2 being very hard to watch in the theater. Almost harder for me than Terrifier 3. When we're talking about initial experiences, not talking about my rewatching experience this week. But I do remember loving, just initial thoughts, or at least what I can remember of my initial thoughts when we saw it together, the imagery. Amazing imagery. So much of a stark difference from Terrifier 1. It made me feel like it was All Hallows Eve with a budget when I saw Terrifier 2. And I loved that. I was like, yes, it's like All Hallows Eve with a budget. It's utilizing Halloween, you know, glowing pumpkins. This is what we want. I did think some kills went too far. Now, this is the scene Cameron would call mean, with the girl in the bedroom, the friend in her bedroom, getting hacked to pieces, her arm broken backwards, and getting salt and bleach rubbed into her wounds. Not only that, but then surviving long enough for her mother to see her, and then her saying "mommy." Now, to me, it went from being overly cruel to then cartoonish.
Yes.
To
It looked
where
like an
it ruined
animatronics.
it.
That's what it looked like to me. And like even
It
Barry
ruined
was
it.
like, what the heck? I'm like, there is no way, no way in any universe that that person would still be alive
I
after
know.
everything that he did. I mean, her
And
body would have went into shock and she would have just died or been
And
passed
he
out.
would have not gone. Remember how you and I think we read something or we saw something that he had more time to work on that kill
Yes.
because of COVID. And I actually think that's
Yes.
a detriment to the movie,
I do too.
because if that kill had been shorter, that is almost, spoiler alert, if that kill had been shorter, I actually think 2 would be my favorite of the whole franchise, even including 3. Even though after initially seeing 3, I told you right then and there, I said 3 is my favorite now. 3 is like the best one for sure, hands down. On this rewatch this week, I almost like 2 better, but it's that one kill and also a few other things that keep it from being my favorite. And I think it's because finally we do get a man getting effed up in a sexual way. We do get his penis getting ripped off, which was awesome. I loved it. But he's still alive.
Because did you get the joke? Did you
Just the
get the
tip.
joke?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It was great. And I didn't get the joke in the theater, but I did get it upon rewatch.
Yes.
So yes, his penis gets ripped off, but he is still behind the car in agony as Sienna's friend Brooke flees and then gets killed in a more prolonged fashion. So like, to me, there's still instances where I think it's crueler towards women than men. Even though
Yes.
yes, a man got his peen destroyed. How
Destructed.
yeah, destroyed, I mean. But I feel like it still leans towards being more harsh to women. And
Well,
there's still a part of me that's bothered by that. I don't know.
and also too, my husband brought up the point. He's like, I just think there's too much blood. Like it's not like more gore or more blood is going to make it more entertaining.
Yeah.
Like there was at a point where it's like, okay, enough is enough. We get your point. You've already done all these different things. That's when I think it teeters on that torture porn. That scene to me would be what I consider torture porn. This person is still alive and you're
Yes.
continuing to just, I mean, how is that even giving him satisfaction? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine, because like the person can't even run from you anymore at that point.
Right, exactly.
You know?
And that is where, when you and I did our deep dive about slashers, one of the qualifying things of most slashers is they quickly do people in. They don't kind of linger and torture people. Hence why this almost seesaws into torture porn territory, I think. But is he still a slasher? I think, yeah,
I think so,
kinda.
because majority of the tools that he uses to kill people are blades of some kind. He did shoot somebody in this one. He shoots Sienna's mom. I mean, he blows her head off when he's in the garage,
Yes.
poor mom, and then stuffs mashed potatoes in her face at the table.
I almost think it's
I'm just
better,
like, why?
because I feel like he's actually the nicest. The shooting with the gun is almost the nicest kills that anybody gets in the franchise.
Yes.
So I'm almost glad her mother got that instead of the terrible torture that her friend got.
Exactly. I think Allie to me is what I would I mean, I don't watch torture porn, like, so I guess I can't really be an authority, but it's what I would think would be considered torture porn, more so than just extreme horror.
Right. Yeah.
And I just think it was just like so unnecessary,
So-
because it actually was like a wasted kill in a way, because there was no one else but Art to witness it. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw the aftermath, the mom does, but like, to me, the other kills where people, like Tara is seeing Dawn get sawed in half. I mean, you didn't waste that kill just to do it by yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I don't know. So, and then he used acid in this one too.
Which I do think is unique. And then in the third one, he uses, what is it, liquid nitrogen, I think? Or
Yes.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
I think he's just very creative. I think he likes to be very creative. And
I think you're right.
The one thing about this movie is that I do think it needed to be tightened up. It could have been cut 30 minutes shorter.
Everyone says the second one's too long. And I thought upon rewatch I would think that too, but I was sitting there being like, this doesn't feel overly long to me. So it's so weird. So what I think was reversed on the rewatching process was I liked 2 better than I remembered, and I liked 3 less than I remembered, which is so funny that happened.
That is upon rewatch, but 2 I think is really good. I love 2.
So how would you rate 2? What do you think? Just like overall, what are your feelings on 2?
Well, my overall, I mean, I'm giving 2 a 4.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah, which I think I did give it a 4 originally. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 4. But I just think that you're introduced to your final girl. We get a little bit of information about her. I love that we find out a little bit about Art's creation with the dad. Like, I had forgotten about the sketchbook.
I know, me too. I was so glad I read. Like, that's why I think I liked 2 so much, because it filled in a lot of gaps I didn't remember.
Like,
so, like the dad, and also the dad having. I forgot that the little girl had any kind of real significance, and I do like the little girl better than Vicky, the no-face lady. So when we talk about the more prominent sidekick, that's why I think I'm leaning towards liking 2 better than 3, which is so funny, because if you had asked me before this week, I would have said the reverse. I like 3 better than 2. But looking back now, I love the little girl clown because she's creepy as freaking hell. I love the little pieces of lore you get. Like you said, the sketchbook, but also that the dead little girl's picture is in the sketchbook.
Yes. Okay. And so then I have thoughts, because they say that Michael Shaw kills himself. Something happens.
Sienna's dad.
Sick. Sienna's dead. He gets sick, and he ends up driving his vehicle into a power line or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think he was killed, like he was somehow forced to do that to himself.
I think maybe he was trying to protect somebody. That's just my theory.
I don't think he committed suicide of his own volition.
Not in the traditional sense. I either think it was for protection, or he was forced to do it for some reason.
Somehow because of Art, finding Art in the book. And also too, he had drawn the pictures of the pizza parlor guy as well as Mike the Exterminator. And so I thought that was very interesting, because those were kills that had happened. How would he have that knowledge?
Exactly.
If he wouldn't have had some kind of sight into that. And also he has a picture of Dawn getting cut.
Yeah.
In that sketchbook, as well as Sienna as, the angel. So yeah, I like that. And I also know, I mean, I'm guessing this, but this is why I think it makes it Terrifier a little bit up in the ranks for me, is that the demon that possesses the little girl who was killed, she's the vessel. The little girl that was at the carnival.
The only thing that doesn't add up is they say that the vessel is supposed to be someone who is evil, and you can't imagine that little girl being evil before she was killed.
But does it really have to be evil? Because if you remember in 3, Vicky tries to get into Sienna.
She does. So maybe it gives them extra satisfaction to take over an innocent, perhaps. So maybe that's why it was drawn to the little girl.
So the little girl is actually who resurrects Art.
You think
That's
so?
That's what I think.
But then how come we don't ever see her till 2?
Because if you remember, 2 opens up with them in the morgue.
Oh, you're
right.
Okay.
Terrifier ends, all we see is Art choking the guy. Okay.
It still comes back to his resurrection right after he's resurrected.
Yeah. So what happens is in 2, it opens up with the morgue. The guy is been cut, and he's staggering to the phone, the morgue guy, the coroner guy, and he's trying to make the phone call. But prior to that, you see all the lightning and, all the lights flickering and all that stuff. And then what is the next scene? The laundromat.
You're right, and he meets her. Okay, yes. So you think she is the resurrector.
And the reason I think is because if you remember, the guy who is sitting in the laundromat, who ends up being killed by Art, he sees Art playing patty cake
with himself.
Yes.
Nobody. Yeah. So only Art can see her at times. Well, and Sienna and Jonathan.
Well, eventually, because I think she
Yes.
can reveal herself or whatever. But yes,
So
that's what I think.
not to jump ahead, but Melissa's asking, did the little girl take over Vicky? Are the little girl and Vicky the same? Because we don't see the little girl.
I'm going to tell you why I
Yes.
think it. I'm going to tell you why I
Tell
think
us.
it. Well, we got to get to 3.
Oh, you want to get to 3 first and then tell us?
No, well, the reason why is there's and that's why the kill count for me made a lot of sense.
So what's the kill count for 2? Do you know?
Kill count for 2 is 7.
7? Wow, less than 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's surprising.
Now, well, I say 7. Okay.
Does that count the mom who got her head as a candy bowl?
Yes. Yes.
That's off camera, though, her kill, I believe.
Right. But can we count the dream as true kill counts?
The Clown Cafe dream?
Yeah. I put question marks. It's
That's
7 without the people, but if we count the dream, there was possibly 10 to 15 people that were killed.
Because of the little boy and all those clown people, those actors and actresses.
Which I thought that was very clever of Leone, not to portray kids in those parts, except for the little boy that was at the table.
Me too, yeah. What do you think the significance, before we move to 3, since this is a scene in 2, what do you think the significance of the Clown Cafe is? Do you think that's a limbo land? Do you think that's like a significant like metaphor for something? Or do you not have any guesses? Like, I really don't know what to make of the Clown Cafe.
To me, the Clown Cafe kind of, the way I'm interpreting it is the Clown Cafe is kind of giving Sienna knowledge about art. And then maybe tying it together with the sketchbook to know that there is something else that's happening.
It's almost like a subconscious plane, because what happened, or what started to happen in that plane, also happened in her room with the fire. And she experienced things there that helped her knowledge, but she didn't get hurt there, even though, you know, she was hurt in the Clown Cafe, but she wasn't hurt when she woke up. So exactly. I think it's a subconscious plane that she can maybe visit, but doesn't always fully inhabit. But that it may be an actual plane of existence. I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm not entirely sure.
And I don't think that Sienna can be harmed in that plane. It's a good term for it. Whereas she can be harmed outside of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I wonder if it's something that art is trying to show her.
And is the question, so if Jonathan's alive, which we're going to get to 3, but my big question is Jonathan really dead? We never see his death on camera, which is such a waste if they did kill him, to kill him off camera. 2, is that where Gabby is? So can other people be on this Clown Cafe plane, if it is a plane?
Right, if it is a plane. Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
That's something we could think about. And
I think that is one of the things I wish I would have more time to kind of like investigate and see if anybody ever addressed that. But other things about Terrifier 2 that I, got is that through that one interview, I couldn't really think about what was Sienna. I just thought of her as an angel. But you know what? He based it on an archetypical look of an angel Valkyrie, which I thought was interesting because that's Norse mythology. And you know how much I like all that mythology. Yeah. So a Valkyrie is a female figure that's a chooser of the slain. They're semi-divine angels who help humans travel between earth and heaven. They're fearless, they're skilled in combat, honorable, and devoted to Odin, which there's no mention of Odin in here. So Leone's kind of basing it on that, but not necessarily in the truest sense of Norse mythology.
But inspiration, taking inspiration.
Right. Yeah. Also, another thing out of that interview was that he did a nod to Scorsese and Cronenberg.
With what parts?
Just like it was like a nod to them because that's what kind of a filmmaker he would like to become. Kind of like Cronenberg started off making these really low budget.
Also, he's known for body horror.
Right.
Like, yeah, there's tons of movies like The Fly and what's that other one that we both watched?
Oh, The Brood.
And The Brood. I freaking love both of those. Great body horror. So I could totally see that being like an inspiration for him.
Well, so what I'm saying is like Cronenberg, he's like, thinking of himself like, Cronenberg started off with low budget films and then ended up
Yeah.
growing as a filmmaker. And then Scorsese, it's about his style.
Right. That makes
So
sense. And there is a
anyway,
lot of style in 2 and 3 for sure. And even in 1 with art's design. So I think you could see those nods and odes, I think.
yeah, I do too. And
In his
also
style.
too, he's exploring the supernatural entity in this. The one thing I wanted to point out, and I can't remember if we talked about this in our previous ones, like I feel like I would have remembered, but it was so caught off guard when I saw her again. Felisa Rose from Sleepaway Camp is in Terrifier 2.
She is?
She
Wait.
is the teacher.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention. Oh
She's
my
the
god.
she is the teacher when they find the possum.
Wow. I
And
didn't
also,
even
too,
remember.
the woman who plays Barbara, Sarah Voigt, was in a movie I recently saw called We Have a Ghost with Anthony Mackie that took place in New Orleans. So I thought that she plays an FBI agent or something in it. So I thought that was really funny. But then also, too, our wrestler, Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I love Chris Jericho. That was one of my favorite cameos. And also, for those who don't watch wrestling, so a big part of what a wrestler does is, if he's a good guy, he comes out, can talk to the crowd, really get the crowd behind him. If he's a bad guy or a heel, as a lot of people call them in wrestling terminology, they'll come out and say things to make the audience boo them. Well, at the time of the release of Terrifier 3 specifically, Chris Jericho is currently a heel, and he was a heel at the time of release. So he was coming out and being like, the star of Terrifier 3 is here, like acting like he's a big star, even though he's only in it like for the first few minutes for a great kill. So anyway, I loved how Chris Jericho played into the fact that he was such a big part of the movie, and he's like, oh, the star of and he's not, obviously, but he knows that, and he's like kind of playing into that to like make him more unlikable, even more so. So I loved it. So yeah, Chris Jericho did a great job with his little guest appearance. It's at the end of 2 and the beginning of 3, which I love how they tied that together.
Yes, and also he is, I think, part of that interview too, where he makes a little comment about how he almost wasn't in 3. They changed the ending so that he could be. So it almost makes you wonder what was the ending going to be for 2. Now
I guess he would have been killed maybe at 2, but they were like, let's just bring him back for 3 and kill him then. I don't know.
Right. I love the way, that's the one thing I do love, how everything is connected by the ending and the beginning. Like
that is one of the greatest parts of the Terrifier.
I do like
movies.
that. I don't know why I like that, but I do. But thinking about that being like a plane or a realm or whatever, do you remember when Art stabs Santa with her sword and she falls into that tank of water? The tank of water is at the cafe.
And that is why I'm thinking it is another plane that she can actually physically access that either gives her information she needs or sometimes power she needs, or even though it's a scary plane, I do think it's some kind of limbo. Whether that's good limbo or bad limbo, I don't know, but I do think, because when she's in that tank of water, it's almost like she's getting revived by the water.
I'm almost wondering at that point, that's when she gets her semi-divine reawakening.
Yes, I think so. And
because when she comes back, that's when she beheads Art.
Yeah. I do actually think that gives her a little something, almost like, is it a baptism? Is it like metaphorical? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that her new birth? But her as like this divine, angelic kind of savior. And we do play around with the theme and concept of savior in the 3rd movie, especially at the end, the crown of thorns. We'll get into that in a second because we're still talking about 2, but I do want to address some good comments here about 2 and 3. Let me see. I know Amy had some great stuff she was saying. I just remember Terrifier 1 having not having the elements that drew me into the movies like 2 and 3. Didn't realize he was a demon, and I don't remember any supernatural elements. I love the storyline with Sienna. Knowing now that he's a demon and the good versus evil vibe the others, aka 2 and 3, have, I love that more than Art as a character. I agree. I don't care all that much about slashers and killers. I'll have to go watch the first one again because I don't know why, but every time a gun comes out in the movies, I get annoyed. I hate it. I don't know. I also hate it because I think it's a little bit of a cop-out. And he's so extreme with everyone else, but some people just get a bullet and then
and I think what it is with that, I think Art is like just bringing his bag of tricks with him.
That's a good comparison.
And I
Yeah.
think what it is he just has all these different implements that he can kill people with. And maybe a gun is for someone who he just doesn't feel like he needs to waste his
Time.
energy on. Although, if you think about who gets a gun, Tara got the gun, right?
Which surprised me. Out of everyone who got the gun, that she got the gun.
She got the
surprised me the
gun,
most.
but he still did things to Tara. You know what I'm saying? Like
It
he still
wasn't
did
just
things.
the gun.
She was the
Yeah.
one that had the circus sign, you know, like, okay, welcome to my circus kind of thing. I don't know
Whereas
what he was
there's
trying to
other
do with the
people
message. But like the
that just got
mom,
the
the
gun.
mom getting the gun, it's almost like, I think well, when you think about it for a second, the people who get the gun sometimes are utilized in a different way. Tara was shot with the gun, and then she was propped up with her message of circus. The mom was shot with the gun, then she's propped up at the kitchen table for her kids to see her.
They're almost like used as a medium for inflicting torture on others, the people who get the gun.
But then it's interesting that he uses a gun on himself. But I guess because it was the quickest way, he's not going to obviously torture
I think
himself.
he uses a gun when it comes to time. Like maybe he didn't have time to do all this stuff with the mom, so he blows her head off so he could position her to torture the people he's really caring about torturing, which is the son, you know, Jonathan,
right,
and Sienna. So I think
it's
you're right.
very interesting to think about who gets shot. What is their relevance to the story?
And the other big use of the gun in 2 is just when he mows everybody down in the clown cafe in the dream. And that's more to torture Sienna, not really to... He doesn't have anything against these people. He just wants to kind of run amok, I guess. And it's the most timely,
again, it's another,
way.
And it's not even a handgun, it's a Tommy gun.
It is.
And
which makes sense for a dream, I guess, you know, that he would kind of have a Tommy gun and yeah. So I do think it, now that we've kind of talked it out, I think the people who he's used the gun on does kind of make some sense. Maybe it's because of time constraints or because he just feels like this person don't really have anything, you know, really connection with them. I don't really need to spend the energy on them. I might want to use...
Or maybe what he wants to use them for shock value, maybe for whoever else.
For someone else.
He knows that Vicky's coming.
Yes.
So Vicky sees his sister like that. He didn't have time to really spend with Tara.
Right. When it comes to
think about it. He's eaten Vicky's face.
Yes.
And then he's going to shoot himself because he knows he's going to be taken out for sure. And then Barbara, he's setting up because of the kids. Whichever kid's going to come find out. I don't know if he knows because he's supernatural who's going to show up.
Right. I love this comparison, Erie. It's kind of a variation the way art is shot a lot of times with his chin down, but they're shooting up with the camera. Kind of a variation of the Kubrick glare. I love that.
I do.
Feel like I need to rewatch 1 now. I might do that once this ends. I'm curious if I feel the same, and I don't remember the end. I think by the end I was zoning out. I do think once you rewatch, like I did like Terrifier better than the first time. But I still like it the least. I will say that.
Yeah, I think for me, watching it again and seeing certain aspects, things that I was looking at, you know, just to kind of, because I was really trying to pay attention to like the continuity or like the evolution of art. That's what I was trying to do with that. And like I said, I bumped it up a half. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 3, but I'm bumping it up a half just because of the supernatural element of him actually becoming the supernatural entity. You know, going from Miles, the Miles County clown serial killer to, you know, truly Art the Clown, the demon clown, you know, kind of thing. Now, I will tell you another little tidbit if we're ready to start moving on to the next thing.
We are, but I do want to say before we move on, Amy thinks that the drawn out unrealistic part from 2 made that those parts or any kills that are more cartoonish easier and less intense for Amy to watch because they're very cartoonish, and that's a positive for her. I can see that too, but I think if he would have just cut that shorter and cut that out, it just would have been better.
Well, I just think the part, look, even if he did all those things, just having her look like an animatronics, you know, with the eyeball looking at the mom and saying, you know, whatever. It reminded me of another movie that I've seen where it was just like weird like that. And I think Barry was just like, okay, really? You know, it's sort of like when you watch it with somebody else too and get their perspective of it. It's like, that's true. I mean, really, did you need to go that far? Like, you didn't even have an audience except for us. And you didn't break the fourth wall to know that we were watching you. So
Yeah. I think
then
because
why
he had
did
the
you
extra
hate
time
Olly?
for
Why
COVID.
did
That's the only reason it happened, is because, and knowing that, I'm like, then it's even more unnecessary, because we know he just had extra time. He spent way long on, like, I guess whatever he had to physically make that work, but the physical
well,
effects, the practical effects,
I have to
too
tell you
much.
one funny thing too that Barry's like, these people have so much time to get away, but they stand there and they scream.
That's just
And
like it
I
happened.
tell him all the time, I'm like, don't you tell me that the movie would be over if people acted like normal people would in this situation. But I do wonder why no one calls the police right away. Like, literally, the
Not
mom
one
comes home.
person.
Okay. The mom comes home. She sees the broken glass. If it was me, I'd be like, 911, this
That
is
would
my
be the
emergency.
first thing I
That's the
did.
first thing I would do.
And when her friend initially comes downstairs and see the window, like right away I'd be like, my phone, like, come on, let's like call
911
911.
would be on speed dial.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like that. But of course, we would not have a movie if these people did not, if they thought. Now, I know this sounds terrible, but I did like the popcorn. I mean, I'm saying popcorn because there is a popcorn bin, bowl, or something made out of Art's head.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if they got the idea to do that from the mom having the
Yeah.
candy in
I
her
bet.
head.
I bet they
I
did.
thought that was so funny. And I'm thinking to and my husband's like, do the people not realize that that's blood on the candy? Even though the little girl says, oh, this is sticky. I'm like,
The
do
mom's
you
like,
not
no,
notice?
it's fine. It's a prop. It's fake blood.
I'm like, do
Whatever.
these people, I mean, he's so hideous. Like, I don't care how good your costume is. He was so hideous. I'd be like, I'm not, no, it's okay. We decided we're going to be sugar free. Goodbye.
Yeah,
I'd
and
be
then
like, come
he'd
on.
come after you. Like, you don't want my candy? I'm coming to get you. Because that family was fine.
And then
Trick or treating.
I'd be calling 911 after that. There is a crazy ass clown with a realistic looking bowl head, and it's got sticky candy in it. And I do not think it is honey.
That's why we wouldn't be good for
We would not be
characters in a
good. We would be
movie.
terrible. We would be terrible
It would be
horror.
over.
Yeah, we would be horrible.
My favorite
Okay.
thing about Terrifier is Art is from Alabama, says Travis. The actor, of course, who plays Art.
Yes.
And Tanya's saying we're making her want to watch the movies.
Well, only if you like extreme horror. I would not recommend the Terrifier movies to anyone who does not like these type of horror films, because you can like horror films but not go to this extreme.
True.
Crossing the line.
I do think this is one of the most extreme franchises out there when it comes to horror, and it's divisive. You either love it or you hate it.
Right.
I do think it's very, very divisive. Amy says she likes my theory about a baptism of sorts.
I do too. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, I just did. Like, that's one of the beauty of these discussions is things come up and you just are like, blah, blah,
well,
blah.
It's when you were saying something about the plane, I had written down that when, it was sort of like she was going into the portal to hell. That's what I kind of thought. But now to me, it's more of a portal to limbo.
Yeah.
Where there's in between the, heavenly or hell or whatever, however you want to put it. And then the portal that we see in Terrifier 3 is truly the portal to hell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now, like, I'm very excited because I have portal to hell, but it's really not. It's really the portal of limbo. And maybe that's why she had to see it to know that she was in a place.
Exactly. Yeah, it's when you talk together, like, things just pop into your mind, and I love that. And I loved your tidbit about the Valkyrie info, and I also
that was like very fascinating to me. Like I said, I literally was looking, I told Kelsey this, I was looking for a video to have someone introduce Damien Leone to see how they said Leone. Because pronunciation, if you just type that in, it's Damien Leone. And I'm like, I hope that's how his name is really pronounced. If we're talking about him for like an hour or two. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go look on and see somebody surely. And the two interviews that I watched, neither one of them introduced him as Damien Leone. They just said, oh, hey, Damien, or whatever. And I'm like,
no, that's not what you're looking for.
Damn. Well, I'm just going to go with my gut.
Well, Amy likes the info you brought about the Valkyrie as well, and Travis says, interested to see the next one, assuming she's going to have to travel through hell and bring the demons from All Hallows Eve.
Well,
Oh!
that's what I was going to tell you. I have my theories about that.
Well, first, let's give some tidbits. Tell us what your thoughts about Terrifier 3, since we're kind of in that territory
Okay,
now.
well, before we go into there, I just want to tell you why I think what happens, why I think about Vicky.
Tell me.
And the little girl.
I want to know.
Okay, so I did not catch this the first time, but I caught it this time. The pale little girl picks up Art's head, and when she looks, her eyes turn yellow.
I didn't see that.
They turn yellow, and then
she
walks out.
off.
Okay.
Yes.
Then the next thing is we're in Vicky's room, and she's in labor pains, and she's given birth to Art's head. And there's a part where Vicky's eye glows yellow.
So that's officially when she's
possessed.
So
I think the pale little girl inhabits Vicky's body as a vessel. And so it's like Vicky and the pale little girl are in that body together.
Right. So the little girl, her body is still somewhere and could be used in a different film. Maybe. Probably not.
Maybe, or maybe the vessel was no longer, maybe the vessel, I have my theories about this too. Maybe the vessel was no longer needed because it was a little girl as opposed to an adult. And also too, Vicky can talk.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Okay. So I think the demon jumped hosts. And so it's really Vicky, pale girl. And then I'm explaining what else happens in 3. This is just my thoughts.
3, initially my thoughts, I loved it. When I first saw it in the theater with you, I was like, this is my favorite.
Yes,
upon rewatch, I hate Gabby. I'm so sorry. I hate Gabby so much. She annoys me. The little girl Gabby in 3. I can't stand her. And I gotta say, just really quick, Travis was happy to see the mom of Sienna die. At first, I remember disliking the mom, but upon rewatch, I had more empathy for her. She's going through a lot. Her husband just died. Her freaking kids are setting fire to their rooms, so she thinks. Her son, she thinks, is freaking bringing dead animals to school. So I understand her pain, and I think you get that moment of sweetness between her and Sienna on the phone. Into
that, and also you have the moment where they see each other when she's in the carnival place.
Yes.
And then also you hear Sienna tell her Aunt Jess, Mom used to be such a nicer person, a more fun person before Dad died.
Exactly. So I think I understand what you mean, Travis, but I, upon rewatch, had more empathy for her, a lot more. And I was actually sad to see her die in the second one, upon rewatch, especially because of just knowing she went through a lot. Yo, Alicia, by the way, thanks for being here. But yeah, I will say my big criticism with 3 now is Gabby. And Gabby annoys me. She's snooping everywhere. She's like, I love you. I'm obsessed with you. I love your scars. Like, you must have seen her scars before she went to the hospital. Why are you asking about the scars? I'm sure you know something happened to her. Why are you asking about her scars? It's so insensitive. I cannot stand Gabby. I like her more at the end. But upon rewatch, that's the thing that sticks out to me the most. I'm like, do I like this anymore? Do I like this movie anymore? Now, there's still parts I like. But Gabby kind of almost took it down a notch for me. So Terrifier 2, I'm teetering between 4 and 4.5. Terrifier 3, I don't know. Right now it's sitting more of a 4. I don't know yet. I don't know. Let's keep talking about it, and I'll tell you my final thoughts at the end. But give me some of your thoughts and observations about 3.
Well, I do think watching both 2 and 3 at home was a different experience than seeing them on the big screen. And you and I kind of talked about that a little bit before we went on air. And I think it's because, one, you're seeing something for the first time. It's on this big screen. You don't know what to expect. You think everything's going to be horrific. Upon watching Terrifier 3, I was able to watch the whole film without closing my eyes. I was pleasantly surprised that scenes that I thought were going to be more visual were not, except for the rat scene with the ant.
It's funny because you and I were so disturbed by the glass masturbation scene. Again, these are spoilers, so sorry, guys. But upon rewatch, it wasn't as bad as I remember.
Well, and you know what? So now it makes sense to me why not many people were bringing up that particular scene, that there was other scenes that they were more disturbed about than that one. And now I can, like, people being more disturbed by the shower scene than that one. But now I can understand, because while it was a disturbing scene, don't get me wrong, it's terrible. It's awful. But you don't see it.
Yeah, it's just you see the blood on the floor, and for some reason I thought you saw more, which I'm glad we don't. But I don't know why my memory is like remembering it a different way and more hardcore than it actually is. But I will say the shower scene, I don't think that's worse. I think that's hilarious. I laughed out loud. That was another one
that was, to me, was over the top. Although I did think it was funny that he made a blood angel.
I did too, but I loved that part. I was like, yes, and I thought that girl, that was all the kills.
I hated her. I hated her.
I hated her too. So that's the only kill I ever felt good about. I was like,
you know what? You kind of deserved it. And you know why I think it? Because Art makes a point of taking his glasses off and look her in the eyes, because remember, all she wanted to know was, I'd like to look him in the eyes and see if he had a soul. Well, baby, you got to look him in the eyes, and then he left the sunglasses for you.
I think
that sounds mean, I'm sure, but
no, but she was horrible. She didn't have any empathy at all.
No, terrible.
So to me, it's hard to have empathy for her because she was so freaking void of empathy. So yes, PD, it was wonderful. The shower scene, still my favorite part of the third.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. It was just ridiculous. That was another scene that was kind of like Ally's, but not as torturous.
Yeah,
it was like, at what point, really?
By the way, Erie says we are saying his name right, so it is Leone. She did a few interview click-throughs, and not Sam, which I've actually seen his podcast, finally said it.
Yeah, that's good, because I had a feeling it was, but I'm like, okay, let's make sure, because some people, you know, you got Abears and Herberts spelled the same way, but people say it differently.
Very true. I think the pale girl could be Satan. Oh. I think Art messes with people's realities and normal reactions, making it where they don't call the cops, kind of like he's able to keep them alive for an unnatural time to torture them more. Amy agrees. Also, by the way, is this true? Is the next one going to be an Easter movie? Is that confirmed?
I haven't seen anything.
But
in fact, Damien Leone in that one interview didn't even want to say anything about a fourth movie coming out. But someone kind of called him on the carpet about it. Clearly, you left us with a cliffhanger. When is 4? And he's like, can we just get through 3?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously let's put it this way. There was a big difference in the reception of 3 than 2. And I'll tell you, both 2 and 3 both got their SAG-AFTRA logo at the end, which means that he's being taken more seriously as a filmmaker. Secondly,
bigger budgets. Yeah.
I can tell you this, when Kelsey and I went to go see Terrifier 2, it was only showing in the theaters for a limited amount of time. And I want to say maybe a week, 5 days to 7 days. And that was it. Terrifier 3 stayed in the theater for much longer. I was shocked.
Think they extended
it was over a month.
Yeah.
That it was in there. And
it did well.
I want to say when Kelsey and I went to see Terrifier 2, it was us and 4 other people, maybe
like 2 rows ahead. It wasn't not filled, but 3 was way more.
3
crowded.
was, they had tons,
tons
more, and so that was like very surprising to me.
Yes, I'm glad someone else thinks Gabby was obnoxious. Get out of her journal. Like, you can't be reading Sienna's journal. That's so wrong. Anyway, she just annoyed me. That's like affected my enjoyment. But give us more of your thoughts, Kat. I did not mean to cut you off.
No.
Travis does say he was just saying it would be fun if it was Easter themed. He doesn't have any insider knowledge, but he was saying it would be fun. But I would like it more if it goes back to Halloween to kind of come full circle.
Yeah, I think the whole point of why it was on Halloween initially is because Art comes out at Halloween, and that's how he can be a serial killer.
Right.
Because it's so hard for you to catch someone as a serial killer if everybody's dressed up. It's sort of like that movie Hellfest. where the
Yeah,
guy
I
is
see.
dressed
Yeah.
up as an employee of
So it was
Hellfest.
just a coincidence it was Halloween. Not a coincidence, but for at first it was a reason, but then after
No, I
it,
think because I guess the second one he does. I mean, Terrifier 2, it is Halloween, but if Terrifier 2 is where he's supposed to meet his arch nemesis, or which is Sienna, then I don't know.
here's a question. Why do you think they went into like a static state at the beginning of 3? Why did they just kind of freeze?
That is a question I have. That I have a
Yeah,
couple of
I
questions,
I
and
think
that's what I put. Why does art hibernate for 5 years? And the only thing I can think is perhaps because of what happens to Vicky,
is it
and
because Vicky
also
killed herself?
Sienna. Yes, and also because Sienna is in a psychiatric ward and in and out. So I don't know if maybe they couldn't do anything
Access
because of
her?
that,
Or
or I don't know. That is a question I have that I wish I had more time to kind of really look that up, but I do. That's my very first question. Why does art hibernate for 5 years?
yeah, I was just wondering if anyone watching or if you had a theory on that. I honestly don't have a theory. Like, the baptism theory is one thing, but the hibernation, all I could think was the second she slit her wrists and she's the host for the demon.
She's the kill. So she is an actual kill. The kill
Yeah.
count is much higher. It's like 21 plus in
Wow. For
Terrifier
3?
3. Yes. And the
Wow.
reason I say 21 plus is because you have for a fact the
The
little kid
bombs.
Corey, because he opens the gift. Okay. But there were people around him, maybe Corey's mom, the Santa Claus. I don't know exactly how many people were killed in that. So that's why I say 21 plus. But there are 21 people that I counted for this. And Vicky is killed by suicide, which I think the little pale girl makes her kill herself
Oh.
because she doesn't want Vicky inhabited in the body with her. Because if
Okay.
she does, then Vicky, there's a little humanity of Vicky left that could get in her way.
So maybe they needed to like recharge. Like once she killed the host body, maybe they needed to recharge to be able to come back and utilize
And
the
then
bodies.
also the little pale girl is killed, or the host,
The
Vicky's
host,
body is
okay.
killed because she gets decapitated.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point, I don't know if the little pale girl, the demon that inhabited, where that demon goes. Did the demon go into the portal at the end? Because
Now
I don't
we
know if you
do
can
hear the little girl.
necessarily kill a demon.
Well, we do hear Jonathan's letter, or we see Jonathan's letter, and we hear Sienna talk about the letter in the third movie, which does bring back up the girl. And it says, I think I have it written down somewhere. It says, Jonathan's letter says, we have to destroy the little girl before it's too late. She's inhuman. She's a demon. He doesn't know that there is a Vicky. So I don't know if that means that the little girl is, kind of a moot point now, or is she still a factor, and is she going to still be a factor going into 4?
I
That's
think
the
the pale
question.
little girl, the whole premise of her was as a vessel. I don't think that she is the actual entity.
Now
You know what I'm saying?
I'm aligned with you, but the thing that makes me question it is Jonathan's letter saying we still need to kill her, we need to take care of her. And then Vicky basically being gone, useless as a vessel at the end of Terrifier 3. So to me, it's either he's got to go into 4 on his own, have a different sidekick, or maybe the little girl comes back. But then the actress is going to look older. So I don't know. There's all these questions.
Unless there's a different vessel.
Right.
That's the only thing I can think. Unless, I don't know, maybe they inhabit Gabby.
That would be horrible, but yes.
I'm just saying. I mean, how crappy would that be if Sienna gets down into the portal and she's going to go try to save Gabby, and Gabby is the demon.
Oh.
She's the queen of Satan. I don't know. But anyway, that is a question I have about the hibernation. I just think maybe they needed to recharge. And then that brings a question up for me that I have. is the pale little girl demon, I call it the pale little girl demon, but anyway, is that demon more powerful than Art, since she's the one that resurrected him? And so therefore, if she is trying to recoup herself, maybe that's the why Art has to hibernate?
Maybe so. That's a good question. That's a great question to ponder.
It seems like she's in control of him up to a certain point. Then he goes off and he does his killing spree, and then they're together again at the end.
Yeah.
But she seems like she's orchestrating what's going to happen.
At least when it comes to Sienna and her family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Travis says, I love the beginning of Terrifier 3. It was so impactful, and I was so glad they didn't hold back. I was alone in the theater when I saw it, which made everything more scary. I think I heard Leone say we would get more of Art's backstory in the next movie, which I would love, Alicia. I hope that's true.
I just hope they don't make it some kind of stupid, whiny reason why. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I want him to be a truly evil soul. Like, I don't want him to have any sympathetic backstory at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
We'll see. I love this kind of analysis too, Tanya. And like I said, Kat and I, it's one of our favorite things. We have so many chats, especially about slashers, and I've linked some of them below because we've talked about Terrifier a lot over these last couple of years, I gotta say. Hi, Arlene. First film was such a turnoff that I haven't watched the follow-ups. I will say I like 2 and 3 a lot more, guys. A lot more. So if anyone who hasn't seen them, I do think 2 and 3, at least there's something to root for.
Mm-hmm.
There's something. But then my friend Andrew really hates 2, and he basically gave up on the franchise. So, you know, there are differing opinions. Like I said, it is a very, I think, divisive film franchise, so there's a lot of different opinions, and if you feel like it might be too much, I'd say just avoid it to be better safe than sorry. But Alicia thinks they hibernated to regain strength, but also they needed a time jump to fit the storyline.
Well, I guess that would make sense because Sienna literally is in and out of psychiatric facility for 5 years, so we know that.
I like the idea that All Hallows Eve is actually a sequel to the Terrifier movies based on how the ending of the third showed the bus scene. Oh. Because, wait, is there a bus scene in the...
There's not a bus scene in All Hallows Eve. He's talking about the bus scene. He's talking about there's a loop back to All Hallows Eve because of the Ninth Circle. The woman on the bus
of the train
is reading.
Station. I thought that was a train station.
Well, yeah, he's at a train station. In the original Ninth Circle, that's a train station. I thought it was
you think
the woman is reading the Ninth Circle.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay.
So when she's reading the Ninth Circle, and I think the portal that Vicky's blood opens up, I think the Ninth Circle is down there. I think that's the Ninth Circle.
So you think it's going to come full circle to the Ninth Circle?
That's what I think.
Leone said he had to make it 5 years because of production delays and the age of the kid. Oh, okay. I swore I would never watch these movies, but y'all got me into them, and now I'm obsessed. That is so funny. Yeah, I just think there's a lot you can really dissect about it, and I think that makes it more fun. If I was just a casual viewer, I don't know if I'd like them as much. I think the fact that I know that Kat and I are going to dissect it and experience it together kind of adds an extra thing for me personally. I don't know.
Yeah, and I was looking to see, like, as far as someone getting shot in Terrifier 3, the only person that I believe is Smokey. He gets shot with the gun.
And the bartender.
Well, he's disemboweled and decapitated.
But he's also shot first.
Eddie. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Eddie is. I'm thinking about Greg. Poor Greg. And then it's the first time with the nitric oxide.
That was one of the funniest scenes too. Like, I love the peen destruction scene in the shower, but I will say the bar scene is a close second. It's such great dark humor, and the freaking Santa begging, "Come on, Clowny! Come on, Clowny!" It's so good. It's so good.
I know, it's hilarious.
And the fact that Clint Howard is in there is pretty cool.
Yes, well, I have a list of people that I was like very, very pleasantly surprised to see in there. That was for sure.
Yeah, it was awesome to see him.
My favorite scene out of the whole entire Terrifier 3 is the bar scene. I just think it's hilarious. I love how Art, takes a piss on Santa's lap.
I like that too.
Oh
It's so
my
good.
gosh. The one thing I do hate about Art the Clown is that stupid horn that he's got to go beep a boop at that part in when he's doing that to Sienna in the shop in Terrifier 2. She's like, don't do it, don't do it, and then he does it, and
He
he's just
does it.
so
Yeah.
excited, happy, you know. I do like the whole like just the demonology part that's in it. That seems to really be more prevalent. We're learning more about that. I like the religious aspect of it. You know, it's the good versus evil at this point. I love that.
Definitely really hitting that hard right now. Like they're really going, you know, pretty strongly with good versus evil. They even had the reference the crown of thorns that
Yes.
Vicky takes from her head and puts onto Sienna's head. You're not a savior, and then like
I
almost
love
mocks
that.
her.
Like I had to go back. I asked Barry, I was like, what did she say?
I had to put on captions to see what she said.
And
Yeah.
she was like, you're no savior. And then gives the thorns, like, you
It's
know,
like she's
mocking
mocking
Jesus.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like mocking Jesus. She's mocking her like they mock Jesus, kind of thing. Like, you're
And
not really a king, or you think you're a king. Here's your crown of thorns. So same thing. You're not a savior, but I'm going to give you this crown of thorns. And it's
right before
like,
she kills her. I love that. But I will say,
yeah,
when Sienna throws off the crown of thorns, so she just lost the sword, she just lost Gabby, she is distraught. She tears off the thorns, looks at her hands. What's that called when people get hand?
stigmata.
It's almost like kind of a stigmata reference, in my
Hmm.
opinion, but
Hmm.
then it closes. So do you think that was her giving up hope, or do you think that was her gaining strength? Why
I
does
think
she
it's
throw off
just,
the
I think what it
crown?
is it's showing you that she is semi-divine.
I think it's showing she's semi-divine, but also she's not what you think of as the normal savior. She's still her own person. So she's not she's not Jesus, but she's her own unique version of a savior in this universe.
Right,
That's why I
right.
think she throws off the thorns. I
Yeah.
don't think she's defeated. I think it's a bigger
I don't think she's defeated, although that was the whole
symbol.
primary thing. Because, you know, the pale girl slash Vicky is saying, I'm going to take everyone you love. Because you see, that's the issue. She tries to inhabit Sienna's body, and Sienna, she can't. And then she realizes, it's because you're holding on. You're trying to protect, you know, Gabby back there. Well, I'm going to kill her, because if I kill her, then you're gonna lose all hope,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to inhabit your body. And I think she realizes that she would be a strong vessel,
Oh yeah.
especially if she has some kind of power that she well, which I don't know if it would work. If she would inhabit her body, would she have those healing properties? I guess so. I mean, Art does.
She probably would.
But she would just be a stronger vessel, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so appealing. And it's also so appealing, I think, for Vicky or the demon, whatever you want to call her, to jump into Sienna because the power, and also the
Taking over good.
satisfaction, yeah,
Yeah.
of taking over good and basically defiling something that is pure and good and strong and innocent and or at least, I truly innocent, truly the representation of good. And I think that's what it wants. It
And you
would
know
get
what? I
satisfaction.
also like thinking about that. That might be why she originally inhabited the 10-year-old little girl, because it was an easy vessel to get into because of the innocence.
Yeah.
And that she at some point knew she would have to have a stronger vessel.
Yeah, I
But
think
she
that
had to at
that
least make her
aligns.
way into the universe.
Right, right. I think that makes perfect sense. I was gonna ask you, so when we first saw Terrifier 3, you and I both thought that Jonathan was still alive. Have you changed your opinion, or do you still think he's alive? To me, the glasses makes it seem like he's not alive. Like, I was questioning, maybe he really is dead. They do want her to be hopeless. Why
Well,
would
the
they
thing
pretend to
about
kill
it
him?
is we don't see the kill. We don't see the uncle get killed, but at least we see the body and we see the head, which I thought
Right.
was very clever of putting the head on top of the Christmas tree. Even though I didn't want that to happen to Uncle Greg, I did think that was him being very funny, in a really terrible way. But we don't see anything. And we do know that the demons can mimic a voice. because we see that when they capture Jonathan.
And we see that you can tell that when Uncle Greg calls to pick up Jonathan,
We can
it's
hear
not
it.
the real Jonathan.
Right.
You can hear there's like a echo, a evilness. So he doesn't even talk to the real Jonathan. So maybe the real Jonathan had a chance to escape.
Right. Which
And
then makes me think, if it's not Jonathan's head, whose head is it?
That makes me think that too, but we'll see. I just think it would be such a missed opportunity if he really is dead, not to show his face. Or
I would
like,
love for him not to be dead. I would
Yeah.
love for him not to be dead. But I think it's one of those things. Is it too cheesy if he isn't really dead? And if so, where is he?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I believe. Like, to me, he's just dead. But I feel like that's such a missed opportunity if he's really just dead. Like, he should.
But why
like,
does he have his glasses? How did he get them?
Someone's saying in the chat here, Travis, I think Jonathan is alive. Maybe he escaped and dropped his glasses. Alicia hopes he's not alive. She doesn't like him. He's a trucker, but she means trickster. He may very well be alive. He kind of annoys me, like he hasn't done anything to help. Yeah, I mean, he is kind of whiny, but and Amy's like, a trucker? I'm like, there's no way that little dweeb is a trucker. Yes, a trickster.
I think what it is for Jonathan, I like Jonathan more in 2 than I liked him in 3. And I don't know if in 3 he was just trying to get past it to the point because he couldn't deal with it, perhaps, and that he didn't want to go down that road. We know that he has the same issues with like Sienna because he is on some medication to help with the anxiety of it. But the thing that I didn't like about Jonathan, and I don't know if the whole reason is because of the storyline, for us to sit here as we are now guessing if he's alive or not, is that he lies to Sienna and tells her he's going to go to a party when he's really not. It seemed like he was very pro Sienna and let's work as a team in 2. And it's sort of like, I don't want to be associated with you because it seems like you are the issue. So I'm trying to stay away from you instead of us working together.
I think because she still is living in that conflict of, she's still living in the past. She's still living with the trauma and he's just trying to move past it and forget it. So that's why I think he's so pro being kind of apart from her, not as supportive or on the same page as her, because he just wants to get past it. He's in college now. Can I just live my life? I really am trying to be normal. And I think the reason he says he's going to the party is not that he wants to lie, but that he wants to go, but he never shows up. I mean, you've got the guy who ends up dying in the shower trying to call him, like, is he coming? Where is he? So I think he might have intended to go, but then he has an anxiety attack, freaks out in his dorm, and just ends up sleeping. So I think it's not that he wasn't intending to go or that he was lying on purpose. Whether or not he was lying, he definitely was trying to be distant.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, Jonathan could still be sleeping somewhere.
Yeah, like maybe they never got into his room. Like that's what I'm thinking, is that they just pretended to be him by calling and then got the uncle. Yeah. Didn't even worry about actually getting. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, because the whole thing is we don't know when Vicky actually gets together with Art. Did they meet at the house when Art comes back with the uncle? Or were they both there? Because the only person we see is Art.
I do think one of the best things to happen in 3, not the best, okay, it's actually the worst. So the rat kill. But yeah. I think that is the most impactful part of the whole franchise, honestly, because right before she knows she's about to be tortured to death, she knows she's about to get something terrible. She, instead of turning against Sienna, is like, I love you. And then you see the love they have for each other, the aunt and Sienna. And then having to see her go through that, it's just such an impactful kill for Sienna and for the audience too. I just think that is what 1 was missing. And I feel like 2 and 3 really comes to a culmination when you see that kind of emotion in the scene.
Well, you care about the characters in 2 and 3. You literally you're rooting for them. You care about them. You want to know what this mystery is about. How is the dad connected in his way? You know, there's that part where they go back in the scene and Michael is talking to Sienna and he creates the, you know, the angel for her.
And then
And
they have
there's
that
a,
moment.
yes, they have the moment and he kind of has a vision of what's happening. And so that's what tells me that possibly Michael did not kill himself by his own hand, that somehow he was killed by this entity because if they can kill him, it's easier to get to her.
Or he had a tumor, and the tumor allowed him to access visions of the future, or
That's
like
true.
tune into some supernatural elements, since Sienna already kind of has a hint of supernatural. I mean, and so maybe when he drew out that character, she touched it. Maybe the tumor's already starting in his brain at that point. A
Mhm.
little, I don't know. And maybe just that spark allowed him to see things that were going to unfold. And maybe the things he started seeing started from then, from when he handed her the
Mhm.
paper on,
Mhm.
throughout whenever until he died. Whether that he killed himself or not until he died. Um, I will say what I loved was getting that interaction and finally seeing her dad. I hope we get even more with the dad. His backstory. Did he create art? Did he inadvertently create art?
Well, he
Or was he
is.
just getting visions of art in the future?
Yeah, I mean, he was a comic book artist,
Yeah.
you know, and there are, I have seen some speculation that they thought maybe Art was Sienna's dad, you know, dad reincarnated as Art, but Damien Leone has squelched that. He said
There's
that is
no
not true.
way. There's
That's
no
not
way.
true. But is it possible that he created Art, you know, as a character,
That
or
somehow was given life.
did he or is he also somehow got some kind of like a supernatural connection?
To me,
You know, like some
I
people
think it's
have
the tumor.
foresight and stuff like that. They have foresight or premonitions or whatever, a sixth sense or whatever.
Like that's why I think maybe his brain did have something special to it. Not like a premonition, but because the tumor was developing, it just allowed him to access different parts that most people would never access. And I
Like
think it's
almost like
more of a
accessing a sixth sense, maybe.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. And I'm thinking more that he saw the future, not that he created art. At first, when I saw 2 without having seen 3, I thought maybe, yeah, he accidentally created something. He has some kind of power. But no, thinking back after seeing 2 and 3 back to back, I truly think it might be a um a situation where he's just seeing something, and as the tumor grows and grows, he's haunted more by this potential future,
Mhm,
and so
mhm.
he draws it out because he's like pained by it, he's haunted by it, he's tortured by it. He doesn't want anything to happen to his daughter, but he's like seeing these things that he fears will come to pass. But
Right.
how does that impart actual the supernatural power to Sienna? I don't know. How did she get that? I will say, what do you think of the scene? Speaking of supernatural and religious imagery, the scene with Mary holding a demon in chains, almost like forging her armor. Was that her armor? What's happening
That's what
there?
I thought. It was the sword that he was forging,
But he's also like forging these little pieces that looked like the pieces she
and
was
like a
wearing.
shield or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. The fact that he's on a chain is sort of like,
He's evil, but he's controlled by, like, was that the statue of Mary?
yeah,
So to me, it's like I want to know more about that.
I
Like
know, I know, I know.
that really piqued my
I did
interest.
not have enough time to like really delve into that
Well,
aspect
I
of
don't think
it,
there's
but
any answers. I think there could only be speculation about that. Because I think we can only get the answer if he kind of explores that more in the final. I don't know if the next one's going to be final, but in the next movie. And I hope he does, because I want to know what the hell was Mary doing with this demon dude making freaking armor.
mhm.
Is it for
Yeah.
Sienna? Like, what is it? What's going on? I'm so intrigued. That's why I do think 2 and 3 did such a great job, because I gotta say, so Terrifier started as the slasher I cared about the least. But now, honestly, it's become the slasher franchise I actually care about the most. Because do you care about Friday the 13th? No. They're all like kind of iterations of the same thing.
Oh,
Michael Myers, yes, I'm a big Halloween fan, but does the lore really have anything at its core? Not really. this is one of the only franchises, when we're talking about slasher franchises, that is building a really interesting mythology / lore around it. And I think it's great. So I do think that, whether you love it or hate it, I do think it deserves its popularity now for the style of art, his design alone, but also for the bigger aspects they've been weaving in 2 and 3. So
because it leaves it open for a lot of things. That's the thing about it. How 4 is going to be created. Now, Leone did say that when he was writing it, he has the end in mind, and whatever's going to happen in 4, it's either going to be the end of Sienna and Art, at least for a little while, or like the end of Art for a little while. Now, that doesn't say that Art may not ever revive as something else, but as far as this goes,
with a different,
I think he's getting to the end of his story of what is going to happen. So my thing is, I'm just curious, how is it going to play out? Because and this is the only thing that I think that there's a hint that Jonathan could still be alive, is how is she going to go about getting Gabby back?
That's why I think she's going to need help. That's why I think she would need Jonathan, because he did all that research on like the occult and stuff. In his letter,
and then the only other thing I can think, and this could be far-reaching, is that the image she sees of Mary at the forge or whatever, is she going to end up having to look for religious help?
True. Good question. That'll be interesting to see as well.
Because
it goes into that direction, because it did tease that direction with the third movie a lot. You think about Christmas, as Amy said, very religious related holiday for most people.
Think about it.
Silent Night playing at the end when he's on the bus.
Also, think about the fact that Greg was crucified.
Basically,
Dismembered and disemboweled, but he was
still in the crucified position.
Right. And then they put the crown of thorns on her, like mocking her, like, you think you're going to be the savior. You're not. Like, you don't know what you're messing with, little girl, is the message I was getting from that demon. I don't think they expected, that's the one thing I have to say about Gabby, was that she was smart in the sense, and there was foreshadowing because she was a little snooper, but there was foreshadowing for us. I love the fact that she took Vicky by surprise with that.
Me too.
And then also loved, even though she was getting her hands demolished, which was very hard to watch.
Oh yeah.
You knew that she can heal because she was able to, fight and do whatever she had to do. So I think that the reason the blood opened the portal is that was the demon seeping into there out of Vicky the vessel.
Well, yeah, I think the demon opened it.
Art is still a demon, but he's still out there, doing his thing. I'd love to know where he's going to go. Is he going to go hibernate a little longer, or it's just so many things. Like, Art's out there. What is he going to do? Is he going to be able to summon a demon from the ninth circle back to him?
That's the whole thing. Is he going to have another sidekick? Is it going to be the little girl come back? Is it going to be him alone facing Sienna, like one-on-one? And also, how is Sienna going to open this portal again to get Gabby back? Is it going to be like the Clown Cafe limbo area, or is it going to look like the ninth circle?
And then the other thing you have to think about too is how is Sienna going to explain all of this?
I know, because especially you had the foreshadowing of that podcast girl who we all hated, her saying, or her partner saying, if her brother wouldn't have testified, she would have been in jail because everyone would have thought she just did it. Well, now her whole family, she just came home, they're all dead, and her brother seemingly isn't
from
there.
A psychiatric facility.
Yes. So if she might be on the run in the next movie, because there's no one to vouch for her.
And they could say she had motive.
Exactly.
They could say she had motive. The girl that got killed with the podcast, she and her boyfriend could have, because that girl was antagonizing her and she wanted to kill her. Of course, she would have alibis for other things, although it didn't seem like the people at the mall didn't seem to be like tying it to Art, the bomb thing.
No, they just thought it was some psycho. They didn't say who it was, but Sienna knew it was him. But exactly. I just think there's so much they can do with this next movie, and the 3 did its job. Where 3 almost still is my favorite is that it did its job so well. It's got me so excited to see the next movie. So in that way, it's like a perfect film because it utilized all the Christmas imagery in a great way. It looked beautiful, like, you know, artsy. I say beautiful, not like there's still a lot of blood and a lot of gore and a lot of gruesomeness, but it's in like a very artsy, pleasing way, visually pleasing way. So it did everything it was supposed to. There's just little things that bothered me the second time that didn't bother me the first time. That makes me wonder: is 2 my favorite? Is 3 my favorite? I really don't know. They're almost equal now. Whereas I thought 3 was my favorite.
Now, what I did love about 3 too is like you can tell that Damien Leone's being taken more seriously as a filmmaker just by the actors that were in the film.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
like Tom Savini guest starring, like we
Tom
said.
Savini is in there. He's the bystander at the mall. And when you think about him getting his start in, you know, the movies that he was in, both as an actor as well as working on special effects and makeup, I mean, he's worked with some greats, you know. And then Michael Shaw is played by Jason Patrick.
Yeah.
Who is, you know, Michael in The Lost Boys, which is one of my favorite films. Also, too, the guy who plays the Charlie Santa guy, he is Robeck or whatever his name is. What is his name? I wrote it down. Oh, Daniel Roebuck. He's been acting since 1981. He's been in a lot of things. Believe it or not, he's been on The Walking Dead webisodes. He was also on Lost. He was in so many episodes of Lost as a doctor. You know, so when I was looking up like his filmography, I'm like, his face just looks so familiar to me. It's like, who is this guy? And that's what it is. He's like a character actor kind of thing. And then Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother, he always plays a goofy character somehow in a film.
He does.
I thought that was pretty cool. But probably my favorite was the fact that Tom Savini, and that just goes to show that it's a nod to their great work in their field.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know.
By the way, did you know, Kat, that there is a novelization out for Terrifier 2?
Yes.
And Olly did read it. I want to point everybody to Olly's channel. Of course, I'm talking about Criminale, a good friend. He did a review recently of the Terrifier 2 novelization, and he said he was pleasantly surprised because he thought that, you know, it would be so hard to portray a villain who doesn't speak in a book. But he said that Tim Wagner, the author of the novelization, did an amazing job. And he also talked about how visual the movie franchise is, and he didn't know how that would translate into novel form. But he said that Terrifier 2, the novelization, it was really well done. So I did link his review down below for anyone who's interested. My friend Benjamin did buy me the novelization, so I will be reading it. And I kind of want to read it this month now after rewatching 2. So
well, you could read it for Garb August.
I might
2.0. I mean, well, 3.5. I'm sorry, it's 3.5.
Yes, 3.5. The Wasted Weekend. I might.
The Wasted Weekend.
Because I'm kind of tempted.
Probably not very long, I would think.
It is kind of long.
Is it Terrifier or Terrifier 2? Like,
it's
is it
2. There is no Terrifier novelization,
okay.
And I did ask Cameron and Benjamin about that. I said, "Do you think they're gonna make one?" They're like, or maybe it was Andrew who said, "Do you really want a Terrifier novelization?" Because, like, you know, not much happens in Terrifier in terms of when you compare it to 2 and 3 and the characters. So I don't know. Maybe they don't plan on doing a first novelization, and they're just doing 2 and 3. And if there's more, we'll see. But all I know is that I've heard 2 is good, and I'm excited because I'd love to read it. Well, and Cameron was liking it too. Cameron started it.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Well, if Cameron liked it, considering 2 is not his favorite film.
Exactly. And he was liking the novelization and was like, I'm liking it. So, hi, Mindy.
Well, I wanted to share because the whole reason why we got on this whole Terrifier kick is that Kelsey and I would watch horror movies and then talk about them. And my friend Ray threw out there, have you ever seen Terrifier? I think y'all need to watch Terrifier.
I think we asked for suggestions, and we were like, be careful what you wish for, because then Ray said, watch Terrifier, and we did.
And
we're
so
like,
we
what?
did.
What did we watch?
So we would reach out to Ray after we would watch different things and ask him, you know, because I think a couple of our chats we had done like pre-recorded or whatever. So anyway, I reached out to him, you know, just to, he knew knew when we were going to see it for 3 and kind of gave me like general thoughts about just Terrifier 3 back then. But I reached out to him to ask him to give me his thoughts on, overall thoughts, what his feelings were about 3, and then his tier ranking. So I want to share that with you, Kelsey.
Please.
He said, so I will start with my thoughts on Terrifier 3. Like I've mentioned before, I think this one was kind of derivative of the other ones. It kind of fell back on old gags, the glasses, genital mutilation, etc. I think Pale Girl was a better partner for Art. She was more whimsical than Vicky, who I wish would have shut the hell up most of the time. Vicky was just vindictive. I actually think they changed the sculpt of Art's mask to make it more pointy in parts to give it more of an edge, but I don't know. I tried to look to see, but I didn't notice a difference.
It could be they were just shooting from below so much that it looked pointier. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He said, aside from all of that, it wasn't bad, but not my fave. I actually liked Terrifier 2 better. So his ranking would be Terrifier 2, the first Terrifier, Terrifier 3, and All Hallows Eve. Yes, that's what he says.
No!
As for the franchise, I think it's great that a little indie movie sparked the newest horror icon to the point where Terrifier 3 was setting records for an unrated movie. Whether it's a true slasher can be debated, and he put that in quotes, can be debated, but you can't argue they are not entertaining, and they did it on their own terms. And then he has all caps, bring back little pale girl.
I did love that little girl clown. I thought that
she was
so
terrifying.
Scary. Yeah, it was so scary because there's something about just like the Christmas setting. It's like innocence, but like perverted, or innocence twisted in a really sinister way, and I like that. So I didn't like Vicky. I agree with him on that. I did not like Vicky as Art's sidekick.
But I think what it is, I think the reason is that as the little girl, the demon could not be as forceful, and the little girl didn't speak.
And they probably couldn't make a little girl
do or say some of the things technically
that
Vicky could. And so I think that's why the demon is not a nice demon. And so that's why they needed to inhabit. And also too, if it wasn't for that inhabiting.
Also the aging of the actress, the little girl too.
That probably is an indicator, but also too, Art had to be resurrected somehow. He needed a vessel for that. And that's what Vicky, whenever she was able to come back, it's just,
you couldn't do it. I think you couldn't have kept going if you wanted his sidekick to go to the levels Vicky did. You couldn't have used the little girl, because of semantics, because of because of things that prevent you from using a little kid actor for doing or saying. It's not, back in the 70s when they could make the poor actress from The Exorcist do and say or mouth the things she mouthed. Like, that was a little girl mouthing terrible things back then, and there's rules now that you just can't, even if it's an indie film, even if they're doing it on their own terms, there's still rules you have to play by.
Well, and also too, that was one of the things that he said in the interview, because I have 2 separate ones that I had kind of looked at. He didn't want to alienate his audience either. He says, killing kids and using kids is taboo, but you can also cross the line, to where you could really turn off your whole entire audience with that. So that's one reason why you don't see him actually kill any of the kids.
The only aftermath you see kid-wise is seeing that little boy's room after. You
see that, and then you also see the children in All Hallows Eve.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? But like even the bombing scene,
you don't really see bodies of the kids.
Now you'll see that you saw the little boy in the dream that she had in the limbo state, but you didn't see what was actually happening to him. Like he just was, it was the aftermath. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I do think that he understands. I mean, he wants fans. I mean, clearly wants people to accept his films. you know, but
I
there are
think
some
he's
people.
successful in
I do
getting
too.
it majorly. Like when you think about the last popular slasher, we're talking about like back in the 80s of these. Or maybe you could argue Saw, like Jigsaw from Saw, which is
Yeah, but
also
when was
not a
Jigsaw? When
slasher.
did he start? When did he start?
It's a long time ago now.
Yeah, so this
So
is what, 2010s.
yeah,
We're in the
this
2008 was when he, did his Circle, but it was what, 2011?
2018 is when the real Terrifier kind of took off.
Well, 2011 was when the short film came out. So you're looking at 2010s with a new slasher.
Yes,
You know,
and that's rare. Like to me, it's so hard to get a slasher to the iconic levels of,
mhm.
Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason, but he's done it. Like that is a feat in itself.
I mean, there's merchandise now.
Hmm.
There's, Halloween, Terrifier,
Yeah.
Art the Clown is a costume now. I mean, they're making popcorn buckets with his head. I mean,
Apparently, there's extra scenes in the second novelization. I do want to read it even more now. We should all do a buddy read.
and he does not personally think that Terrifier 2 is too long, but he
I
did
don't.
say that he thinks that 4 is not going to be like the 2 hour mark. Now, who knows? He said he could have added another 20 minutes to Terrifier 3, but he actually shortened it. It's a little bit shorter than 2.
Upon rewatch and first watch, I never thought Terrifier 2 was too long. I
The
only
thing
thought
about
that kill
Terrifier
was too long.
2, to me, I think they could have gotten rid of the whole bar scene. I don't think they needed to be out dancing and doing that. I think they could have like segued that. They could have cut that a little bit shorter. I don't think it was necessarily
I don't
anything
know,
that was driving the plot
but
so
that led to
much.
that nice moment with her and her mom on the phone. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how else you would have coordinated that. I really liked that moment between them because it made her mom, it humanized her mom more because before that she came off kind of as a jerk, but then after that you're like she's just dealing with a shitload, she's just dealing with a lot,
Right.
and then she gets killed like right after that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you didn't need as much dancing, but also it kind of made me hate her friend a little bit, who just like roofies their friend's drink.
Oh, I know. Her friend was terrible. Her friend
And
was
then she didn't
terrible.
even care. She's like, let's make
Her
out while she's
friend,
like about like
and not only
gone
that, her friend was so ugly to her on the drive home.
and
Like, sort
mean.
of like, get a grip. I mean, Sienna's dad died, and not in a great way. You know what I'm saying?
And the way
Like,
she was talking
very
about it.
traumatic in the way she was talking to her about it. Like, almost like, okay, move on, get over it. Like there's something wrong with you,
I
kind of
will
thing. Not very
say,
supportive.
I did not remember that friend at all. So when we saw that blood-soaked version of her name's Brooke, when we saw that blood-soaked version of her at the beginning of Terrifier 3, I was like, I don't even remember who this person is. But then that's why I'm so glad I rewatched it, because it all connected so much tighter now. It was such a great experience, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. So now
It
I'm
really
very, very
was.
curious and I'm looking forward to 4. But I think now he has so much pressure on him. Like, can you imagine if 4 is like the you know, last one? He's going to have to tie it up in a place that would be very satisfactory for everybody at
And
this
it's
point.
hard. It's hard to do that. So, like, as we move towards the end of our convo, I want to hear about Barry's thoughts, because your
Oh,
husband Barry did watch a lot with you, but I also want to hear your thoughts. But can you give us Barry's? Because that's kind of interesting to me
well,
that he watched.
what it is for him is he did not really care for all the excessive blood and gore. He didn't find that very entertaining. He actually, his ranking is Terrifier 1. He liked that one the best.
What? That's
Yeah, believe it or
surprising.
not. He liked Terrifier 2 next, and then Terrifier 3.
So in order, that's so
Yeah, in
funny.
order. And he thought that Terrifier 2 was a little long. He kind of agreed with me that we didn't need all the dancing scene part of it. But he likes the character of Art. He thinks that he's very unique. He liked that Art would do silly things. Like, he thought it was hilarious with Art in the Halloween shop where he's trying on the different glasses and his little funny quirks and stuff like that. But like, he didn't care for the scene in the second one with the girl in the bed. He's like, okay,
Too
really,
much.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, too much. And also to the scene in the the shower. He's like, really? I
I
mean,
love
like, I think at that point he got up and he went and got something to drink or something because he's just like, I was like, you don't want to see the blood angel? He's like, nah, I got it. Just like the blood angel.
You don't want to see the blood angel? That's like
You're
something a
just like,
psycho would
"No,
say.
you don't want to see the blood angel. He's going to make a blood angel, like a snow angel.
You're killing me here, Kat. That's
Oh
great.
my
You're
God.
gonna make a blood.
But I think
Blood
he would
angel.
watch the fourth one. The only thing, like I said, I regret that he was not able to see All Hallows Eve because that may indicate if he would put that one
Above Terrifier
before.
1. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's the only thing. So we will have to watch it at some point. I think he's terrified out right now, terrified out, and doesn't want to watch that tonight or this weekend.
Yeah.
But I assured him that he probably would enjoy it because it's the little stories within the bigger story.
Right.
But he really, I was surprised. I thought he was going to be like, okay, this is so dumb, like why are we watching this?
Yeah, I'm glad you got some enjoyment out of it. That really surprises me. I'm
surprised sometimes. He likes horror movies. I don't think he likes them at the level that I enjoy them, but I think sometimes, like, there's some horror movies I think he likes more than others, kind of stuff. And he's got his favorites, like
to me,
Michael Myers,
when you
Halloween,
can break
that kind of
it
stuff.
down like this, it just adds something extra fun. Like, in that you're asking him his opinions and getting, like, to me, all of that adds like an extra depth to it. To the whole.
Well, I do. Like, there have been movies, like he watched a bunch of movies during Christmas with me. I asked him, I'm like, which ones out of my movies do you want to watch with me? And I would say, if you could give it a star rating out of 5, what would you give me? And so then he would give me what he would think. And I thought that was hilarious, because it's just his perspective with us. But me, like, I want to analyze it. Like, do you really think? And I'm like doing about the demonology, and I'm like telling him this, and he's just looking at me like,
like, it's just a movie.
You're like thinking about it a little too much, but it makes you really, what I think also too about the demonology thing, that is probably the scariest. It's probably the least horror, sub-horror genre that I like to read or watch because it scares me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just the thought of it scares me. Whereas if you've got somebody like Freddy Krueger or somebody who's just like a maniac, whatever, it's make believe more in a sense.
Yeah.
I think demons could be out there.
Where does your ranking lie? Will you give us your ranking?
Yes, I will. So my ranking, I've kind of changed up. Okay. You know how I felt prior, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, when we got out of the theater, you were like, I don't know.
Well, I was like, I think I like Terrifier 2 much better than this.
Yeah.
Whatever. I was just horrified by those 3 scenes that I covered my eyes. But now that I got like some continuity and I understand the origin and why he is a demon clown and all that stuff. So in 4th place, it's Terrifier with a 3.5 rating. My 3rd spot is All Hallows Eve with a 4-star rating. My 2nd spot is Terrifier 2 with a 4-star rating. And my 1st place is Terrifier 3 with 4.5. And the only reason it doesn't get a pure 5 for me is because there's just scenes in there that I'm just like, it's a little too over the top for me. I loved the bar scene, but I hated that the Santa Claus looked like an animatronics with his eyeball like going wacko. That just seemed a little cartoonish to me.
Like that.
Yeah, just a little weird to me. And then also too, the shower scene was a little excessive.
Oh my God, the shower scene was the best. Come on.
I know that you think it's the best, but also too, I think they kind of crossed the line with the rat scene. That really bothered me.
To me, because of the emotion behind it, because it evoked such emotion. Like, what a horrible way to watch someone you truly love go like that. I think, to me, yes, they crossed the line, but I think
to me that scene was teetering on torture porn.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I do agree with that.
That's the one thing. And I guess because I did care about the aunt and I did not think that they deserved this to happen to them. But that's one of the things I told Barry. I'm like, I really do think a demon would have so much joy in just harming somebody and be so
Exactly.
excessive and making that and breaking that person to the point that they would give up so much hope. Like, do you
Right.
know how strong you would have to be, like, to combat something so evil? Like, that's pure, pure evil.
Right. The rat scene was just classic medieval torture. Rat scene is the only one in the whole franchise I had to cover my eyes
And
sitting.
Amy, I did in the theater, but this time I said I am going to watch it with my eyeballs to actually be able to
Yes.
say. And that's why I was like, I knew it was horrific because I didn't realize that when they slit her throat,
I
the
forgot
rats
about
came
that. I
out.
did forget
And
about that.
so I did not see that. And I was like, you know what? Mm. Oh, and just to let you know, I saw this, you know how we had the bug wrangler talking about the
Yes. Is there a
rats?
rat wrangler?
There's a rat wrangler. It's called Run Amok Rats and Mice.
Oh, I like rats and mice. So I think that's cool. I don't know.
So I did not see, it did not jump out to me about any animals. I'm sure there was a bug wrangler in Terrifier too, because
Yeah,
they had the insects on the cereal with the razor blades. But
true. I'm sure there was.
so,
So, overall thoughts about the franchise before I go into my ranking. Do you have any final, like, summarized thoughts about it all as a whole?
I mean,
Or
it's
art?
it's hard to admit to people that, you know, especially if anybody knows me personally, that yes, I like this franchise, even though Art the Clown is so horrible. He's
Yeah.
horrible, and everything that happens is horrible. But at the end of the day, what I like about it is I like the trope of good versus evil. I
Yeah, me too.
love to see that, you know, and I hope with all my heart that, you know, the good is going to win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That we get to see it, that the good is going to win. At this point, the good is not winning. If it just stayed at this point, evil prevailed because Art's still walking around. Gabby is in the ninth circle with that other demon. The sword is lost. The
I
sword that's supposed to
know.
protect them is lost. So the only thing I can think is that Gabby somehow is able to retrieve the sword, and that perhaps somehow Gabby also has some kind of thing within
Power.
herself, a power within herself that can come out if she's put in a situation that it will have to manifest itself out of there. So that's the only thing I can think is that maybe she inherited that as well.
That is a great theory. I love that. Travis says, I feel so bad for Sienna. I'm a bit scared she will die in the next one. She better not. I will riot if she dies. Oh my god. That is what turned me off so much about the first one, is that you had no one, no woman. We had all this inflicted against these women, these, I guess you could call our main characters, and then none of them triumph. I'm ignoring Vicky because she does not triumph. She just
Mm-hmm.
happens to be alive and she's scarred and it's sad. And then she ends up freaking becoming bad and like losing her mind. So I'm not counting Vicky. I'm saying of all of the women, we're like, oh gosh, somebody's got to come out on top. Nobody does. So thank goodness they pivoted and that I stayed and decided to still give it a chance, because if you'd asked me after the first one, is this something you'll be into for years? No. Now, yes, I'm in it for the long haul. I will be seeing the next one for sure.
Well, and also too, I do think I'm not 100% sure if this is out there, but I do think people noticed how much he leaned more heavily on harming women in a more vicious way than the males in the movies. But I also like that he did pivot because we have a badass female character going up against a male character. Of course, there's a demon inside him. Now, I'm curious if the demon has a name. You know how, like, sometimes when you see exorcism movies, the priest is always like, say your name, and he's splashing the holy water, say your name, so they know who it is or whatever. It's like, part of me, I was like, I asked Barry, I'm like, do you think the demon has a name? Do you think it's somebody like, you know? But, you know, Barry's like, I don't know.
Like
I don't know.
Beelzebub or
Yes,
Legion or
right.
yeah, yeah.
Something, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's just now I'm thinking about it and it's like, how long is it gonna take for Damien Leone to make Terrifier 4.
Somebody said, I mean, Amy was asking, does anyone know when it comes out? Is it 2026? And then Alicia said, I think 2026. I hope it's 2026 or sooner because I want to know what's going to happen.
Well, and the thing is I know for a fact what I will do next time is I will definitely rewatch. I might even rewatch 2 and 3. Not worry about the other two.
No,
but 2 and 3 because
3.
really and truly we will know the supernatural takeover of art into. We see it at the beginning, so we don't need to see the first 2 movies again. But right. I think. Seeing 2 and 3 before seeing the last one, just so that we can have it fresh in our mind so we can catch all those tidbits, and maybe I won't be such a ninny in the theater covering my eyes or going, oh no, or whatever.
I hope you're still a little bit of a ninny because that's the best part. Remember how you're like, that was a rump kill? When the guy, I literally have it in my journal. It's a picture of us in front of the poster, and you lift it up. And
I literally looked at Kelsey. I was like, that was rump kill.
It was so great. It made the whole thing. So I have very similar thoughts about the franchise as you. Started off kind of questioning it and not sure if I liked it, but I was sure that it was effective. After that first one, the only thing I was sure of was that it was effective horror. I wasn't sure if I liked it. I was sure that I did like talking about it with you. But after, seeing the subsequent ones, I would even say starting with All Hallows Eve, I was kind of sold on it as a franchise. I do think this is funny. Kat pulls up her sleeve and has an art tattoo.
No, art scares me. Art's scary to me.
Kat loves art. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So my ranking, I'm very torn. If you would have asked me before this week, it would have been my number 1 was 3. My number 2 was 2. My number 3 would be All Hallows Eve, and then my least favorite is definitely Terrifier. That has not changed. But now I am like, what do I like better? 3 or 2? 3 or 2? And I'm still kind of seesawing even as we speak. But I think the more I think about it and just my enjoyment upon rewatch, I think my number 1 spot, my favorite, has to go to 2.
I am shocked. I am so shocked because when you left the theater, you were like, this one's the best yet. This one, I think this is my new favorite one.
I know. And I've like seesawed and like done a freaking 180. So anyway, I think my favorite is Terrifier 2. I love the setting. I love the Halloween vibes. I love the introduction of Sienna. And I kind of like that there's no Gabby. I'm so sorry. If I had to weigh out the 2 negatives, 1 from 2, which is the too long death scene of the friend. That's my big negative from Terrifier 2. And then my big negative from Terrifier 3 is I like Gabby near the end. I dislike her so much at the beginning. And the negative of 3 outweighed the negative of 2. So I'm going to put this, you're hearing it from me, and I actually think I rated it a 4, but I think I'm going to bump it up to a 4.5 for 2.
For 2?
Mm-hmm. And I think Terrifier 3 is going to come in at number 2, my number 2 favorite, and it's going to be at 4 stars. And I think after that, it's not changing. It's going to be All Hallows Eve and then Terrifier last. So I just was torn.
Terrifier with a 2.5, and then All Hallows Eve with a 3 or a 3.5?
I think a 3. I was teetering between is it 3 or 3.5, but either way, it's in second to last place. I liked it a lot. It was the thing that got me to continue on.
I think it's hilarious that I left that theater with 2 being my favorite.
I know.
And you left with 3 being your favorite. And I'm just like, I don't see how. That was so awful, whatever. And then now we flip-flop.
It's so funny. It's great. It's classic Kelsey and Kat. It's wonderful. I love it. I think this was a great conversation for the ages when it comes to you and me in our chats. So I really enjoyed discussing this franchise. I'm so glad Ray got us down this rabbit hole, honestly.
Yes. If it wasn't for him, we would never have watched it. And I'm so glad, like you said, that we watched Terrifier before we watched All Hallows Eve, because that's really what got us to continue with the franchise. Yes,
definitely. And guys, before we kind of wrap everything up, if you have any final thoughts, let us know down in the comments. I really like to hear what you guys think about it. Is anyone out there excited for Terrifier 4? Do you have theories? do you want to give your ranking before you go? But I do want to remind everyone as you're typing out your final thoughts that please make sure you're following Kat, especially anybody who comes to this chat after the fact. I know a lot of our our peeps that we know and love are here in the chat, and I know they subscribe to Kat because these peeps are awesome, and they know awesome when they see awesome. So a lot of them are already subscribed to Kat. But for anyone who's watching this after the fact, please, Kat's linked below. My friend Olly, who I mentioned, who reviewed the novelization of Terrifier 2, is linked below, and so is his video that actually has the review. And then my good friend Cameron, who didn't absolutely love 2, but he did really like 3. And he is still reading the second novelization, so he might come around to liking it a little bit more in novelization form. He is also linked below. So please follow all my peeps. Please check out me and Kat's other chats. Not only about Terrifier, we only have one standalone other chat about Terrifier. A lot of other chats either include other horror movies, but regardless, I think you will enjoy them.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of our chats. I loved our Year of King that we did. I loved our slasher chat that we did. Yeah, and we even have one on musicals, believe it or not.
We do, which is like the most horror one out of all of them.
And actually, if you want to know how Kelsey and I even came about Peen Destruction, it all started with Rotten Tail. No, I take that back. It all started with Saint.
Oh, you're
right. And then for some reason, it seemed like almost every horror movie we watched had something, but Rotten Tail,
right?
Rotten Tail really takes the cake.
Story.
Oh, and also the Scout's Guide. Scout's Guide has a really interesting one.
Well, this is not really Peen Destruction, but Peen starts the apocalypse in that zombie movie with Batista. Remember how something's going on? I think a BJ is happening or something. Something's happening to where it causes the apocalypse.
Oh my gosh.
We did talk about Anna and the Apocalypse. That was a horror musical in a way. So
we did do musicals, and we had a lot of fun. I think we had a lot of fun with that one as well. They weren't all horror movies. One year, Kelsey and I did all the holidays. We tried to pick one with the different holidays throughout the year.
I like how Alicia says, I love how Kat has all the lore of the Peen Destruction.
Well, the whole reason for that was I had told Kelsey, I'm like, are you noticing a trend with some of the movies that we're watching? Like, why is it every movie has to have something in it?
I know. Alicia says 3 was my favorite. Looking forward to 4. Amy says hyped for Terrifier 4. Rated both 2 and 3 4.5 stars.
Oh, good.
I don't know which is my fave. I gave All Hallows Eve 3 stars and Terrifier 1. I said Terrifier. Terrifier 1 2.5 stars. Little Shop of Horror and Repo the Genetic Opera. We're gonna have to watch those and talk about them, Kat. Oh my god, they're doing a Saw parody musical in Atlanta. Oh my gosh. I don't know about that.
I don't know either. I've never seen any of the Saw movies. I've seen bits and pieces, but it's been a franchise that I don't know. I guess I can't really say without seeing one if I would like it or not, but Saw kind of puts me on the same plane as like Hostel and like in that territory of like Human Centipede. Like those movies all are in the realm of like torture porn. And it's like, I don't enjoy that. You know what I'm saying?
This franchise almost leans into that, but like it's something that separates it where I'm still able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
More than I think I would enjoy. Now, I don't know. I haven't tried really to watch Saw or Hostel, but I'm scared to, and that is why. There's just something that doesn't appeal to me about that kind of horror. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like someone putting their hand in needles. No, thank you. I can't take it. But I really appreciate you coming and doing this chat with me today, Kat. You are the best. You always bring the best facts. I appreciate you so much.
Well, I appreciate you including me in this because I love the horror movies and I love talking to you and love talking to you about the horror movies.
My final question, will you go to the theater with me to see 4 so we can keep our tradition?
100%.
Yay! Well, that's all I needed to know. So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you guys. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, no matter when you check this out. And thank you again, Kat.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.